What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast episode 335. We are back this week with what is going to be a big episode as we welcome our good friend, Mr. Tie Guy Travis, back in the house to talk about a big subject this week. How we doing, my friend? Welcome back.
Show me your wares. Very happy to
be here. You doing all right? Tired?
Yeah, dude, I'm
caught up?
good. No, I'm not tired at all. I'm chilling. I'm stoked. I'm writing a review today. It's good, man. It's an exciting weekend. I did some shows yesterday. We did a post-marathon stream with a streamer who's played a bunch of it and who we were hanging out at Bungie headquarters. So good to be back. Good to be working on stuff. I got some cool projects I'm working on this next week that I'm very excited about. So stuff's good, man. How are you? How you doing, buddy?
You know, I'm all right.
You good?
Hanging in there. Yeah.
You want a kiss on the neck? Is that what you want?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind one. If you're, you nearby?
You want to swing over? Good. Yeah, I'll swing over. give you a little peck on the nape of your neck, buddy.
No one's gonna complain about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That's you got to do that to your bros when they're on their way out the house. Just sneak them, going for a hug. You sneak them a little.
Gotcha.
I don't know
what's do that once in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then we can both get Hogue while we're at it. You know.
That's right. Yeah. Hogue looks like he's never.
I've never been at one of these events where that happens. So
this is why he's wearing a collar today. You know, he's like, I got to protect your neck. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Protect your neck. Hogue, you better get ready when we meet, dude. I'm going in for that hug, and you getting something sentimental, dude, to take home to the kids. That's
I will remember that.
Yeah.
When I met Travis, I just picked him up and swung him around like his legs were flailing, you know, like a little doll.
Yeah. I think you did do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Hogue.
Yeah.
Not feeling the best this morning, but you're hanging in there. You're going to do the show. You're going to hang out with us.
Yes, I will be okay. I should tell the audience that I did warn Travis in the pre-show that because of a little bit of a physical situation I have this morning, I'm going to be trying to not laugh at his jokes because it would physically hurt me. And so Travis, of course, has taken it under advisement that he's going to try to get me to laugh the whole show. So something to watch in the bottom half of your screen is
I got how much pretty good before the show. Too.
How much you can get my chest to move. So we shall see. But I'm excited about this show. Lots of good games to talk about. And probably a lot of games that are not already on your rundown list. So, big Hogue's notes. Lots of, if not directly indie games, less than AAA games that were very, very popular this week and that I really enjoy. So, looking forward to talking about them.
See, we got GameFire even calling you the lawman. He didn't let me slip on it, so we do have the lawman in the house. Obviously, this week, big topic is Marathon. We're going to be talking a lot about Bungie's latest, and Travis was obviously couldn't say ahead of time, but he spent some time at Bungie last week, was part of the group that got to play this and check it out, so we'll have a lot of details.
Where he was?
Yeah, he's hiding out there, you know what I mean? I didn't even get an invite, you know what I mean, Hogue? He just goes out there by himself, whatever. It was
in the mail. You didn't get it?
Yeah, it's in the mail.
It's funny, Travis, because we were asked about that last week. We were asked if you were at the marathon thing, and we were like,
we did. Someone asked us directly.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Fun times. Yeah. Did I tell you where I was going?
Yes, we knew where you were.
We knew, but we did not say, so that's fine.
Good. Yeah, I was there. It was a lot of fun. Should we start with that? Is that what
No, we'll get into it. I got some things to comment on first. So before we do that, I want to get in the better habit of calling out some of our regulars and some of the comments we got, because we actually do get comments post shows sometimes with actually super stickers or like super chats attached to them. So, outside of even just those, just some of our regulars. So want to call it a couple real quick. So just bear with me here as we recognize our community. So Katendra last week with a $2 chat and basically a comment around with Universal Orlando opening the Super Nintendo World at the end of this month. They were basically asking, like, was there any consideration around the timing of Switch 2 and anything to do with Super Mario World? And I basically said that, the Switch 2 will probably have some sort of prominent advertising and role within the theme park, I'm sure. But I don't think the timing was timed that way on purpose.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be, because Universal are the ones making the parks. They're the ones spending that capital. Nintendo is a licensor of that. They can't likely control the opening of something like a theme park. They can, of course, try to time their releases to match to the best that they can, but it's not the driver for selling Nintendo Switches, so you wouldn't try to make an extra effort or spend extra money if you thought it would cost you on the back end. So yeah, it's probably related insofar as Nintendo was inclined to license out their intellectual property in this window, but not related insofar as the actual opening of the gates of Universal. What is it called? The Epic Adventure.
Epic something, yeah. Yeah, agreed. So shout out Katendra, thank you, and sorry for the formatting here. I can't pull these up like super chats at the bottom. These are just pictures. So, but appreciate it. Shout out to our good friend Yago. He has been an SG follower for a very long time. So said finally finished the show from Sunday Ains and the constant professionalism and awesome gaming news weekly. I mean, Travis wasn't here last week, so the professionalism was a little higher.
Yeah,
is what keeps me coming back, brother.
To be fair, it was not my most professional show. I had a 10-minute Nintendo rant. Which, Travis, you missed. So
yes, he did.
Yeah, I was wondering how you guys were going to react to the Switch thing. I'm kind of sad I wasn't there for that.
Well,
we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. So we'll catch up on a few Switch 2 related things after our marathon discussion later. But I want to get your thoughts as well, Travis. So, love the show. Have always have since the beginning and still do now. So really appreciate that, Yago. Shout out, my friend. And we got this comment I shared with the guys too from over on Blue Sky. Basically said, just watch the latest Bitcast, and I have to say you guys are making a run at being my favorite video game news show. You guys are doing good work over there. So thank you very much.
I've never seen somebody abbreviate video games as VG. It's wild.
It's VG.
It's a wild move, dude.
So shout out, any comments or anything you give us, I make sure to respond to all of them on the channel, and we'll call some of those out going forward. So just appreciate the feedback. Of course, we've got a.
Can I highlight a chat, Ains?
Please,
so
sir.
I did want to say one thing. This is a chat that we just got. Universal is coming to the UK. Yes, the UK has announced its first Universal theme park, and more importantly, for the Bitcast, it is announced that there will be a Paddington presence at that park.
Whoa!
So get excited, everybody. I've been talking up Paddington now for 3 weeks in a row. Pretty soon you'll be able to live the Paddington experience.
Wow. Bunch. I love
that
Paddington
guy.
is here. Yeah, he's here. He's always hanging out in the background.
Huge news for someone, I'm sure.
I love, by the way, that Paddington is a main feature of the UK Universal studio. That's very fitting.
There's some other small stuff like Lord of the Rings and things like that, but Paddington, come on, folks.
Yeah. We got our regular weekly super chat from Mr. Googleman.
Googleman,
I can't do it like you, Travis. Hit us.
Googleman. Yeah, you can't do it. It's a hate crime.
No.
Googleman 81, 10 euros, as he writes. As we're not getting GTA 6, I'm locking down my bet for Game of the Year on Split Fiction. Also, Fargo Season 5. Wow, am I right? Also, kind of late, but still wow.
Well,
I've not watched Fargo.
Cool.
I'm positive Fargo Season 5 will not be Game of the Year. I'm willing to put that right in the sand.
Imagine if you're wrong, dude. Clip this. Clip this for when he's wrong.
Jeff Keighley announces as one of the nominations for Game of the Year is Fargo Season 5.
Yeah. Hoag's just sitting there alone in the dark. Loaded pistol next to him. No, Hoag, no.
Oh, Christ.
Should have been Paddington's slot.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we're going to be talking about a game that has tied Split Fiction for the highest rated game so far this year here shortly. But yes, thank you as always, Googleman. Shout out to our good friend Ash Axiom as well, gifting an SG membership and a Lawman membership. That's what we're calling them from now on, by the way, Hoag, Lawman memberships.
Thank you, Ash.
Appreciate you, Ash. Thank you very much. And of course, we have Tide's Picks this week with what seems to be a Lego theme.
Very good.
I like this. I like this a lot. This is cool.
You ever find it odd that the AI never puts me in a hat? Like, there can't be that much source material that is hatless.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't wear a hat for a while, but it is. Look, somebody's using specific photos. That's for sure. I do like that the AI correctly, it seems, got my hair as like a dirty blonde. That's accurate.
It's got you with a bit of a receding hairline.
Yeah, no, that's also accurate. I've had this hairline since I was like 15 or 16 and just assumed I was going to go bald because all the men in my family are bald, and then it just never moved. So
just kind of hung around.
Not receding, just receded.
It's just a widow's peak, yeah. But it has not receded any more than it did when I was a teenager. So I'm very happy with that because I was preparing for baldness my whole life. But yeah, Hogue, you look good. You look like a little bit like Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones.
That's what I was gonna say. He always has this. Yeah, he always has this like vest and collared shirt. And notice how much detail his face has to make him look like a mature Lego compared to me. And
yeah, they kind of made him look
toys.
a little older. I look like, yeah, I've got very noticeable cheekbones in this Lego.
Yeah, you do. Look at that.
Ains, you look. Is your
hoodie, headphones?
Is your hoodie on like lopsided? Like the zipper's not in the middle? That's a little interesting.
Yeah, that's how I wear it, man. That's how I wear it.
Lads, dude. It's cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Ty, thank you.
I think we look pretty good as Lego, to be honest.
I like it. Yeah, I'd buy that.
I look a little sickly colored. Like I feel like they don't make Legos in that shade. You guys feel that?
Also, why is the ridge on your head so defined? You see that?
Ridge? He's a Duplo.
Like the forehead ridge. Like mine's all rounded. Hogue's is just normal with hair, and yours has like a strong ridge. Yeah,
you're right. That is.
He's a knockoff tariff-free Lego.
He's a Mega Block.
There's tariff-free Legos. What country?
I'm just joking about being knockoff goods.
We're not doing that.
Well, don't we have to talk about it? It's affecting the Switch. I have not been able to pre-order my Switch. Yeah,
we did last week.
Am I going to be able to pre-order my Switch? What's going on?
I can't make any claims for the degeneracy or incompetence of the Nintendo boardroom. So whether or not you can pre-order has only a very tangential relation to what the U.S. government does or doesn't do.
Well, wasn't there a pre-order date and then it got moved because of what the government did?
Incompetence, Travis. Rank incompetence.
Oh, interesting. Weird take.
We're going to move on from that, and we're going to get this last member comment from our good friend Rick Davis.
Rick Davis, member for 22 months. He writes, "Morning, guys. Back on my Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Assassin's Creed Shadows grind.
Nice.
Great episode of Summon Sign this week, Hogue. You, Joe, and Alex killed it and were a great trio."
Nice.
We had a lot of fun. Yeah. Alex tried to make me cry, so that was fun. That was a fun piece of the episode, so you can check that out if you're interested over at Last Stand. Not right now because you're watching us at Bitcast. Also, I have to point out, Travis, that you don't know that that's not the Assassin's Creed Syndicate grind.
Oh,
interesting. Don't have any indication.
Yeah, I don't know, although that would be a weird game to be playing right now.
It would be.
Yeah.
I'm just saying AC:S doesn't do the work you think it does, Rick Davis.
That's fair.
No, it doesn't, Rick.
Might need to put an SY. Do we have to get to that level of acronyms? Maybe we should just spell things. Weird idea, guys, but maybe acronyms are a waste of everyone's time.
In fairness to Rick on this one, Google does require you to pay more for more characters. So I don't blame anybody for trying to get in their message for less on the Super Chat.
We're cheaping out. That's how we get acronyms like VG. I see. Interesting.
I wouldn't call it cheaping out. Anybody that deigns to pay us any money for our thoughts on video games is a hero in my book.
I'm going to call it cheaping out because I want that extra nickel, Hogue. I want that nickel for spelling Assassin's Creed Shadows.
We don't get paid by the character. YouTube does.
Oh, interesting. Wait, we're not getting paid for this?
And Apple, right? It's like Apple and Google, right? They take a cut of...
It would require you to be using an Apple device to make your super chat. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's Travis. If you've never used a super chat function before, it's that you get more characters for more money. So it's in thresholds. You want to make a 500 character message, it costs at least this. If you don't, then you can pay less money. So it's not by like adding the next letters, but you can lose the ability to make your $2 super chat and need to make a $10 one.
Got it. Are we not getting paid for this, Hogue?
No.
Travis, I've never gotten paid $1 for my time here at the Bitcast.
That is fundamentally not true, as you do get super chats on your channel. So that is fundamentally not true.
That's right.
Okay, so he gets paid. I'm the only one who doesn't get paid here. What I'm hearing is you guys both get super chats, and I'm an orphan.
Travis, I didn't even negotiate to have this simulcast on my channel. It was a decision made while I was in the ICU. Happy to continue doing it.
Fair.
But
No,
neither you.
I remember Ains talking about it. Ains said Hogue is hospitalized. He can't stop us. Let's take his channel and his audience for ourselves. And I was like, Ains, that seems a little opportunistic. And he was like, shut up, bitch. And then he hit me. I thought it was pretty crazy, man. It was pretty wild. You should have been there, Hogue.
Did you say he hit you?
He hit me.
Isn't there a mountain range between you and he?
He has ways, dude. He'll hit you, dude. He'll do it. Be careful.
No, I think the simulcast is great. I just want to point out that Travis, you and we didn't negotiate anything for ourselves at the front end of this deal.
Right. Okay, let's do that live on this show. So,
yeah.
Ains,
my hammer out some terms. It's like Tennessee just lost their starting quarterback because he tried to change the deal that he had agreed to for money, and now they're out of starting quarterback because it's a week from the portal. I don't want to get too much into college sports, but it's nuts right now. And essentially, this college kid tried to use the leverage he had as the school's only starter to say, you're going to pay me double what you agreed. At least that's what the rumors say, because all of this is behind closed doors. And the school refused, and now he's out.
Damn.
So we don't need to do that to poor Ains, Travis.
That's fair. All right, Ains, you're off the hook for now.
By the way, college sports in this country are a scam.
But we will.
But anyway.
I'll just throw that bomb out there, and we'll leave it. You just interpret that however you like, people.
I mean, they are. People making billions off of go study and play for us. Yeah, that's an interesting way to run a business.
You know, the NFL is a nonprofit organization.
I didn't know if you were going to surprise us with a lore dump today, Travis. So I left that in here in case you wanted to. But
lore dump. Lore dump. Oh no, I forgot. Why am I never prepared for the segment?
My lore dump is that I was talking to my daughters yesterday, and I mentioned Travis's true name, his real name, as the author of an article, and they both looked at me and said, "We don't know who that is." And I'm like, Tie Guy Travis. It's like, well, that's not his name. You can't say that. He is Tie Guy. And Ty is his first name, and Guy is his middle name. So I said, so do you imagine that his name is really Tyler, and he's like a dude named Tyler Travis out there? It's like, no, his name is Ty. And so we had an entire conversation with my teenage daughters about what your actual name is, Travis.
My first name is Ty, legally. Middle name Guy. Last name Travis. It's true. It's very
last
true.
Name Travis.
That's right.
I think you should legally change your name to Ty, T-I-E, last name Guy. And let's not forget, Hogue, he is an official TJ. So
I am a TJ.
TJ.
That's true. Yeah, right. My initials are TJ.
I mean, that would throw my girls for a loop. They would start throwing things at me and order me out of the room.
You can't
because I'm definitely in control of my house.
Yeah. Well, I like that they don't know who I am. I think that's fun.
Well, they love you because you take the piss out of their dad. So they love you.
Nice. Yeah.
I like the English phrase. I like it. Yeah. I also understand, Hogue, that if you have teenage daughters, you are never in control of your house. That's just a fact of life.
No, I'm massively outnumbered. Wife, 2 teenage daughters. I'm done.
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
And you wonder why he has chest pain.
Yeah. That was a good lore dump. Maybe we'll just so he told us about his daughters and something that happened at his house. Oh yeah, Ains, what's something fun that happened in your household this week? Anything interesting? Go on.
I took it's not in my household and it's not fun, but I did take my youngest who has gotten into cars. You know, I'm into racing and all that. I took him race karting for the first time on Monday. First time in his life, like actual race karting, like timed and all that. So we had a good time. Awesome. We put down some good laps. We've got our times and everything, and we're gonna go back. And
is he good?
He did not do bad for his first time doing something like that. So the track average is kind of like 28 seconds a lap, and that's all the way from really good to complete amateurs, right? So in our group, The first race was a disaster. A guy crashed. We got stopped a whole bunch of times. The second race was actually good. We got the race properly. I'm proud to say I beat the regular at the track by 0.2. I have the receipts to prove it. So I still got it in my old age here. And I ran a 24.8 at the track. My son ran a 26.1, which, given his first time on the track and being racing, is actually quite good. He got 4th, I think. So,
nice. Will you pass a message
I got
on
first.
to
The
him for
second
me?
guy, was a regular who had racing gloves and everything. Like, he was all on board. So the fact that my son got 4th was good stuff.
Nice. Will you pass a message along to your son for me?
I will.
Tell me he owes me a 10-second car.
Jesus Christ. He's out there granny shifting, not double clutching like
dude, he needs to double clutch, dude. Tell him to double clutch.
One of the
Tell
dumbest
him.
statements ever made in a racing movie, but
No.
that's okay.
This has
No,
been
it's
your
beautiful.
Fast and Furious Minute here on the Bitcast, folks.
Yeah.
We should
All right,
do
Travis,
it. That's
Lord
another
up.
great segment.
Lord up.
Lord,
What do you got? What happened in your house this week? Well, you weren't home, but
Yeah, I wasn't really here this week.
D.
D, what happened? I don't know, man. Did I do anything interesting? This was a couple weekends ago, but we did another board game weekend where we rented out an Airbnb. You guys know we've done that before. Did it again recently. It was a very fun time. We played a lot of Blood on the Clock Tower. We played some new board games, and yeah, I'm just a dork, man. I don't really do a lot. That's my lord dump. My lord dump is I pretty much just review games and work, and anytime I'm out of that context, I'm super uncomfortable. So I guess the most like fun recent thing I did was just all the like parties and happy hours for GDC. That's always a lot of fun. Just
nice.
hanging out with people from the industry and talking to folks and stuff like that. I do have some fun stories from the Bungie office.
Yes,
those are legitimately fun, but we'll get to that later. That's sort of like a related lore dump. We'll do that.
I also have a small surprise for you in that conversation, so we'll get to
I'm very
that.
excited.
But yes,
He was in the room.
Wait, is it my photo? Did you get my photo from that?
What?
They shared
No.
a group photo of everybody that was at Marathon, and for whatever reason, they decided to use the photo because they took several photos. The one where they were like, "Do a funny one," and I went, "All right, you want a funny one? I'm gonna go all out," and I made like the most insane face ever.
Well, sadly, sir, you have spoiled this segment, but yes, there it is.
There it is. Yes. Look, they said do a funny one. No one around me really listened. I took that. We're going. We're doing it.
I like that, Travis, because it looks like the AI screwed up.
Yeah, no, it's great. No, that's me actually making that face. They said do a funny one. I took that as gospel. I said we're going funny.
You're giving too much power.
And then Marathon, the Bungie shared this photo to the world and no other ones. So if you don't know me,
they did.
That's what my face looks like.
This is literally at the end of their creator video that's on the official Marathon site right now. And that's how I saw it, because I saw they had a group photo and I'm like, all right, I got to find Travis. And sure enough, I found you. So I was going to save that.
Now, Ains, can we convince IGN to make that little square into like his profile pic next to his name when he writes a review?
Yeah, I have to get a better resolution on it, but
honestly, that's my big disappointment with this is that the resolution's so low you almost can't tell I'm making a face. You just think that I look a little off,
little goofy.
But yeah, a little touched.
I want to know the DMs and chat messages you would get if this were your profile photo next to the reviews you put on IGN.
I would honestly, it might be more accurate. I think we should put that.
I
but
see,
literally, like they said, all right, guys, do a funny one. Like the guy on my right is sort of doing something. He's got his tongue out, but like, look at Scarrow. Scarrow's the guy on my left with the long hair. He was on the podcast I did yesterday.
Yes.
He's basically just raising an eyebrow. Like that's sorry, dude. That's not a funny one.
Jake Baldino's right behind you there, and he's just standing there. He's not making any face at all.
Yeah, these guys don't know how to take a note. You know, I'm trying. My
it's
best
interesting that you frame that as them doing it wrong, when I feel like everybody else has learned a lesson. You don't give publicity managers that kind of ammunition.
Why not?
Because
I'm not afraid of looking like a goof. I'll say it.
all right.
All right.
I would have done it with you, and this is why I should have been there. See,
Own it, man. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I went with. All right.
There you go. It worked. But yes, I saw that. I found it, and I was like, I'll save this for when we're talking marathon. But you guessed it correctly, sir. So there you go.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good times.
Anyway, sounds crazy, but why don't we talk about some games? You want to do that?
Let's
you say
do
so,
it.
man.
All right. So we did have it was new to me. I was not anticipating this game. It came out of nowhere suddenly on my timeline, blowing up, people saying the best game of the year, one of the best games I've played in years. And I was like, what is going on here? So let me check this game out. Blueprints. And so we've got kind of a roguelite / puzzle game. It's on Game Pass. A lot of people playing it. A lot of people across the industry, like actually industry people, really raving about this one. Critically, it's sitting at a 90. It's tied Split Fiction on Open Critic for the year. So Hogue, I briefly asked you about it because this, to me, looked up your alley.
Yeah, I can
made
talk
sure-
about this. It was on my wish list for a long time. So this would have been a
so
Hogue's Notes if it didn't explode over everything. But I do want
definitely
to add,
exploded.
I do want to add that it's not just on Game Pass; it's also in Game Catalog. So you can go to either console
Catalog.
location if you want your copy of the game. Raw Fury is the publisher. They were really getting out there and trying to put it on all the subscription services and market it now. So I think they did a good job of that, obviously.
Yeah.
Yep, I was getting there. Go ahead.
Oh, now I don't know what I was going to say. So you should get there.
Gosh.
I love this. This is very awkward. I'm into it.
I was like, it's on Game Pass. I said it's on Game Pass, and I was just like, okay.
Well, you guys finish each other's sandwiches.
Anyway, I was gonna say I am mid. I've only played a couple runs, so I cannot speak super intelligently on this one yet. I made sure to play it yesterday and a little this morning just so I could talk about it at all on the show. I'm in the middle of my third run. It looks like it's going to be my best run so far. Obviously, third run's not very far at all, right? It's like an hour of play. So, but I'm intrigued by the game, but I'm kind of curious to see where it goes. I can't tell if it's going to end with me really loving it and being like fascinated, or if I'm just going to get bored and put it down and never touch it again. So I don't really know where I'm going to land on this one. But Hogue, you said that you, so far anyway, weren't as high on this as the people raving about it. So what are your thoughts? You had this wish listed. Where are you at now?
Yeah, I mean, this was a couple of days ago when I said that. It certainly gets stronger as it goes. I think it's a slow burn starter. It's not as innovative as some of the opening breathless review paragraphs might suggest to you. It is, for the most part, an elegant puzzle type game where you're putting down rooms whenever you get to a door. So the way this game works, folks, if you've played board games and you're familiar with the Betrayal on the House on the Hill game series, you know how this works. You go into a new space and then you pick a new room to put in that space. In this case, in video game land, whenever you go to open a door, it will draft rooms from a pool that you don't get to know what's in, that you can eventually learn to manipulate a little bit. And you'll get 3 choices of what room you want to have go next. Some rooms cost you resources that you can find in the game. Some rooms do things that otherwise alter what might pop out or present you with puzzles. And the best part of this game, in my opinion, is that, like the best puzzle games like The Witness, there are a lot of things happening that it doesn't tell you about, that you get to feel like a genius or at least a very smart person for figuring out as it goes through. Now, I do think that it doesn't have the strength of spirit or character, or however you want to frame it, to let you learn those things on your own. So eventually you'll find a room that will explain whatever genius thing you figured out 6 hours ago. And it feels a little bad when they do that because they're trying to like solve the puzzles for you. But overall, the rogue aspect of this puzzle game, of building this house and then having to figure out what doors can go to different directions while you try to get to certain places in the house for reasons that are either related to puzzle solving or finishing the game, is fun. It also has all of the negatives that go with the rogue experience, which is that sometimes you just don't get the right drops because you need keys to open locked doors. The doors are randomly locked. the keys are randomly dispersed around the house. You can kind of try to manage these various things like in any rogue game, but you don't know what items you're going to pick up. You don't know what resources you're going to find. So you're learning the systems of the game and how to build this house. But overall, I think that this game is perhaps a little bit overrated because it is a novelty for so many. It's very elegant. It's very detailed. There are certain things that I really, really love about how this game is presented, including that depending on where the room is, it can have windows that actually look out on the actual outside of the house or be covered because it's in an internal space, and all these little details that go along with things like that. But as a puzzle game itself, it seems below another game that came out on the same day, which is one of my favorite puzzle games of all time, the Talos Principle. And unfortunately, I think that I'm going to wind up a little bit less than in terms of the ridiculously high ratings for this game. Now, that's ultimately where I wind up on most of these things, right? I'm the one saying that Concord is better than the bad reviews. Here I'm saying Blueprints, which, by the way, if you don't know this game, it's not blueprints like blueprints to build a house, because that's the pun. It's blueprints as in the color and the son of the king. So Blueprints is what you're looking for if you're interested in this. If you have Game Pass, if you have PlayStation, I don't remember, the medium tier and above, you can get a copy of this game on either of your preferred systems. It is very good. It's elegant. There's a lot going on underneath what it actually shares with you and just what I've described. So I don't want to go into any of the details there because the greatness of a puzzle game like this is your aha moment. I liken it to The Witness. If you remember The Witness, it had that aha moment where you realize that the puzzles were actually in the world. This isn't quite as grand as that, but they do have a number of things where you're like, oh my God, they put that in and they didn't even tell me that they were doing that at the same time. So I think that gets a lot of the plaudits from reviewers. I think it's really well made, but it is not my favorite puzzle game that even released that calendar day. So here we are.
Okay. Have you played it all, Travis?
I have, yeah. And Dee has been playing it a lot. She plays it in bed with a notepad that she physically takes notes on. So
notes are necessary, yeah.
Yeah, she's really enjoying that. I think it's a very cool game. I've not played enough to form a final opinion or anything like that, but a couple hours into it, and I think the reason I think its elevator pitch is awesome. Like a puzzle game as a roguelike is just like a great idea, and the way they do it with the house that's constantly changing, it sort of has like a, hey, do you like escape rooms? Well, you're gonna really like this sort of vibe to it. I think it's very cool, and I can see why it's so highly rated. I'm definitely going to be playing more of this one. But
it's very approachable.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like it a lot. And Dee's having a really good time with it. This is like definitely her type of game, just like chilling out, taking notes on a notepad. She's one of those people who buys like 50 notepads, and she just likes, but she has no plan for them. She's just like, look, this is a nice empty notepad that I'll add to the pile, and someday we'll find a reason to use these maybe.
I will say that it was a little unexpected for me based on the reviews of this game. And again, for all games, I'm mostly just looking at aggregates and snippets of reviews. I'm trying to avoid details on the games that I know that I'm going to play. So it was a surprise to me that the puzzle content itself, you solving puzzles, opening safes, doing things that you would do in a Resident Evil, whatever you might characterize that as, is significantly simpler than I thought it would be. A lot of the grandness of this experience lives in the meta, whether that's the rogue strategy or other stuff that I'm not talking about. But the actual puzzle solving, like that's in front of you, what levers to press, what things to move to connect, is not as complicated as I had thought or as I had hoped. So when you mentioned escape rooms, every escape room that I've ever been in, including the novice ones, actually asked more of me in terms of puzzle solving than any given room or puzzle in this game did. And that was a surprise. I think that's for approachability. I think that's because they know they have an extra strategic layer on top of this that is already a barrier to entry to the puzzles, but it is significantly simpler than I had hoped.
Yeah, I would agree. The puzzles, again, I've only done a few of them, but they're definitely simple. Ready for the most specific nitpick in the history of a nitpick?
Yeah, let's go.
So you go into the billiard room, and there's a dartboard puzzle, right?
Mhm,
And you have to add, subtract, divide, multiply.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, well, barely. But they put the color on what is the triple ring of the dartboard, which anyone who plays darts knows that you would take that number and multiply it by 3, which is what I was doing. But instead, they're just looking for the number itself. And I was like, then
Wait,
don't
are
put
they
it
really?
on the damn ring.
They are, but I will say that they knew that that was a problem probably in playtesting. So there is another note in a different room that will say, I was really happy that I didn't need to know the rules of darts to solve your dart puzzle. So, like, there are these various messages that go across rooms. But yes, I hear you, Ains. I didn't know we were going to talk about specific puzzles, but we won't again, folks. Don't worry.
I just found that funny because I played darts a lot in my life, and so immediately I was like, okay, so that's a triple four, so that's 12 minus the 18, and I'm
Literally,
like, wait, and it's wrong. Like, come on.
D has never played darts, and when she got to that puzzle, she like tapped me on the shoulder and she was like, "Hey, can you tell me how to read this dartboard score?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's triple, double,
yeah,
single."
right,
Then,
yeah, like come on.
I walked away, and then I came back. I was like, "Did that help?" And she was like, "No." I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry. That's how darts work." I don't know.
Then I thought I got the color wrong. I'm like, well, maybe it's not subtraction. And I'm doing all the math, and I'm like, maybe they just mean it's a normal 4. And sure enough, it was. And I was like, oh man, come on, get it right at least.
Yeah,
but anyway.
It's funny. I knew as soon as that letter was in, I was like, oh, they had some people doing the actual dart multiplication there.
Yeah.
I got it.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, because I found that letter first, but yes.
Yeah. I didn't find that letter. But anyway, I am looking forward to playing it more. It's kind of got me intrigued to kind of keep going through it. So I know Silkenet, one of our regulars here who's in the chat, said they rolled credits on it in our Discord yesterday, said they really enjoyed it. So, I guess the one thing I do like about it is I don't really know where it's going from. I don't know how the story develops. If there's probably more play here, right? It's alluding to that I'm not aware of yet. So I'm looking forward to figuring that out.
Yes, it's strangely political, and I mean that not in a modern day politics kind of sense. It's a strangely political story. That tends to be the way indie games go. They have a lot to say about the organization of societies, I would say. And
Good.
that gets into the game. Not the biggest deal in the world. You can take that or leave it at your discretion. But yes, I do see a comment here from Proxicus talking about the puzzles in the game. And I did want to mention that, yes, they're simple because they're simple in mechanics. They do actually make them harder as you go. So like the 10th time you're in the parlor will be a more confusing version of the same rule set. The 10th time you're in the billiards room will be a more confusing arithmetic set of equations. That's true. They're still very simple mechanically.
Yeah, gotcha. The other thing that surprised me so far, again, and you guys can maybe tell me if this changes, I was a little surprised that I was expecting, I guess, more randomization to the room. So like when you make just the hallway, right? I've made the hallway all 3 times so far. It's been the same all 3 times with the same note. Does that evolve as it goes? Does it start to have different things in each room?
The note is the same. There's in every room, give or take, and I didn't design this game, so I'm just telling you from my experience, there's a spot that can have a random object, one of your resources or a unique random, and that spot doesn't have to have anything. So one of the options
just
there
randomized.
Is 0.
Okay.
I will also tell you that unless you were really, really lucky / just accidentally, the hallway was not identical every 3 times. Every time. So I'll just leave it at that. Wasn't identical.
Okay. Cool. No, that's good. I like that. All right. Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm looking forward to playing it more.
It's a good game. Please don't take it's not a 90 to me as you shouldn't play it. You should try it. It's a good game. It just didn't knock my socks off in the way that I had hoped it would.
Okay. I do like the... Say it again, Travis?
It could get better.
Yeah, I don't know how far you are, Hogue, or in relation to an ending, or if there's multiple endings. I don't know. I haven't looked up anything on this game.
Yeah, I'm on day 24, I believe.
Okay. All right. Diz Guy, we are talking about Blueprints, Prince. It's on Game Pass and Game Catalog on PlayStation, and pretty popular game this week in terms of releases. So, yeah, definitely check it out.
It is. It's worth your time.
Yeah, for sure. I want to follow up, especially now that Travis is back, and I finished it this week on South of Midnight. So South of Midnight finished a couple days ago, and I know we talked in chat about this. Obviously, we talked last week. Hogue was a little lower on it. I was a little higher. Eric, I think IGN as well, and Eric over at SG both gave it 8s, and it's right around 80, I think 79 or something in terms of critical. But I got to say, I really love this game. A completely different game from Blueprints, but it is a the kind of vibes of this game all the way through the end, especially once you get to kind of level 11 and you get through the kind of big moments there, and then you get to the very late levels. And I won't spoil anything, of course, but you get to another area which is very, very cool. And, we've talked about the detractions of this game, right? The combat not really evolving, the combat scenarios being very generic and repetitive, and that stuff I get. Yeah, I mean, everything you said basically from your first preview, I was talking to Eric about this, was spot on, really. And so depending on how much you weighed that aspect of the game in your enjoyment of it, right, seems to be where people are either going down or lower or higher.
Well, for me, I think Travis actually undersold how clunky and bad actually interacting in those arena combat environments is. I really like this game.
I didn't get to play that part, but it just looked clunky and bad.
Okay.
It's not clunky and bad. That's Hogue.
Okay. Okay.
This is definitively clunky and bad to me.
No,
this is a game that I really enjoy the vibes. I really like the art. I think that they have done a great job of being artists on this game. I do not think they did a great job of being game designers on this game. And I can't get myself to continue playing a game where every time I see that little tangle and I know that the arena walls are going to go up, I feel like I could be doing something better. Like, I like getting the story beats. I like getting the memories. I like going through the game. But actually playing this thing causes me psychological damage. So I am probably not going to see it past Chapter 8, which is where I'm at. And that's a shame because I want to like this so much more than I do. And I really wish that they got some game designers into Compulsion because they got the artists.
I love this game. You're right. I mean, the gameplay itself isn't fantastic. The exploration isn't fantastic, but the setting and just the feeling of being in this world. I love the stories. I love the characters. I love the music. I love the design and the integration of just being in it, and just walking around and kind of engaging with it. I loved it top to bottom. So definitely a different type of experience, as we've heard here and in other places, as Luke just said. He wasn't a big fan, whereas others feel like me. I've seen people kind of raving about it on Blue Sky with me. So it's hit or miss, but definitely try it. It's definitely a gorgeous game, and even outside of that, I loved it.
Awesome.
I was addicted through it all the way through the credits, and the last area. The two last areas, the one where Hug and Molly, which they showed in the preview, so I'm not spoiling anything, but kind of what you go through with Hug and Molly, I think it's chapter 11 or 12. And then the last area, which again, I won't spoil, is really cool. They're just fantastic environments. So
you know which character Ahmed best plays, huh?
Yes, I do.
Is that right that it's the bad guy?
I don't want to say in case. Yeah, I don't want to say. But
it was my theory after that. I was like, he's the bad guy. Why wouldn't they show him?
Well, there's context there. I'll say that.
Okay.
So it's not black and white.
I have not played this game, by the way. I did my preview, and I'm busy with other stuff, and so it's downloaded and on my drive, and I really want to play it. But it's one of those games where, like, I'm sure I'll just blow through the combat and they'll make me do a little too much of it, but I'm here for the story. I'm here for the art. I'm here for the music. That game has such style to it. And, I'm sort of used to having to grit my teeth and play through like some just okay combat there's plenty of games like that. And if the story and music and other stuff is good enough and I can get through that, then great. That's sort of what I got, the impression I got from the previews, that I was just sort of going to be like, all right, whatever, get through this playing combat. I agree with you, Hogue, that it would be great if combat were better in these games. I think sometimes you put a lot of resources and time into those, and it sort of becomes a different game, a different team dynamic. It draws focus. It can sometimes impact the other stuff they're trying to accomplish in the game. So I think it is a give and take situation. But this is a studio that's not ever really been known for its gameplay. It's known for making cool stories and interesting worlds and taking risks. And I appreciate that they took a risk on this game, and we'll see. I mean, I have not played this game. Even when I previewed it originally, it was a hands-off demo, so I've literally never played it.
Unfortunately, I find the act of playing this game less than meh. I find it to be subpar and effectively actively bad for me. I realized when I got to a combat situation and I was just, you get that feeling where it's like, oh no, I don't want to do this right now. And then you have that second feeling which is like, why am I doing this to myself playing this game? So I would love for it to be better. I wind up exactly the same place I was with We Happy Few. I like this idea. I like this world. I like this concept. This is not a good video game. And that's how I wind up feeling about South of Midnight, unfortunately, because I think that their vibes are immaculate. I think that their art is artistic. I said last week, I think this might be Microsoft's most artistic project ever. But I want them to make short films or get some game designers in.
So I want to put
not
something
game
to you
designers,
guys.
to be clear, gameplay or combat designers. That is what they would actually need.
I don't think they designed a game with South of Midnight. So really anybody that can help make it an enjoyable gaming experience would be okay with me.
I think what's interesting about this, and I was talking to others about this, right, is like this game is very clearly going for storytelling, short storytelling, right? A specific thing, world building, and kind of the character Hazel in that story and how she ties to these things, right? We see titles like this all the time that focus on an aspect of something where another aspect is not the focus for the game, to Travis's point, right? So I think like I go in with that expectation. So when you're right, Hogue, and we've talked at length, I'm not going to keep repeating ourselves, like the combat scenarios and they're repetitive and they're not great. Fine. That's not why I'm playing South of Midnight. And so it's like, to me, it feels a little bit weird when people look at a game that is designed to do something very specific and say it's not great at X. It's like saying,
but they included X. They included X. Like there are ways you want to build a walking simulator with this aesthetic. You can. You gotta focus on what you're good at some level. And this was not it. I mean, there's a mechanical game design that is point A to point B with arenas in between. The arenas suck, and the environmental exploration isn't great. So what you've built that is good are the vibes. You've built an interesting story. You've built an interesting world. And the actual aspect of moving your character with a controller isn't fun. So fix that. Figure that out. I'm not the developer. There are other ways to make games. You don't have to go into arenas and fight things like you're in God of War. You can do other stuff if it makes more sense for your story and your world. I would love to see this succeed. I want to love this game. It actually pains me that I can't go out there with full-throated endorsement of this because I want to see new and novel stuff like this in video games. But I want to see it be done with some notion of giving me a good game experience.
That's what you want. I don't think it's that bad, but okay.
I know, we disagree on that. That's subjective at some level. But I do find the combat to be worse than I had expected.
And the combat scenarios are like 20 seconds long. Like, you're acting like you're doing these things for hours on end. Like, you can get into an arena and clear it in
you can also turn
less
it off.
than a minute. You can also turn them off, yes. But you can clear them. Even when you're playing on regular, you clear them quickly. It's not like you're detracting for hours of gameplay at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I assume I'll blow through the combat sections, but yeah, I'm kind of in between you two. Like, I get you go in with your expectations matter a lot, Ains, when you go into a game, and if you're not
100%. Yeah, we talked about that last week.
But it doesn't make the combat any better, just that your expectations are adjusted or different or whatever. So I get what both of y'all are saying, but for me, like, I think the stuff that it does well are good enough to offset potentially me just like going through some boring combat scenarios. Like, I'm there for the stuff that I know that the game's good at, and I'm not reviewing it, so I don't have to worry about criticizing all the stuff that it doesn't do well. But if I were reviewing it, that definitely would be in my review, right? It's not going to be a 9 or a 10 because it's just not. It's an imbalanced game in terms of how good it is at the stuff it does well and how bad it is at the stuff it doesn't do well. And there's plenty of games like that, man. I mean, there's that is sort of the swimming in sevens of the industry that I think is cool. If you get a more polished game, maybe it's also a game where they take fewer creative risks and you get like a God of War story where you're like, okay, well, I knew all that was going to happen, and the combat was great, and the presentation was great. But like, I'm okay with playing a worse game that takes risks. That's more interesting to me. It's different, and South of Midnight looks like a game I've never played before, so I want to play it. That's
where I was when I downloaded it and started playing, Travis. That is exactly my mindset for these games. Is I can put up with a lot of crap if I love your world building. As it turns out, there's a threshold to that for me.
Did you try? You can turn the combat off, Hogue, if you want to try and just play through the rest of the world. There is accessibility where you can turn off the combat arenas.
I might, but to me that just leaves a hollow where your game should live.
I agree. I'm just saying if you want to see the rest.
I have
of
a friend who reviewed Persona 5 and turned the combat off in that game and then gave it a 10. And I think about that all the time. I'm just like,
whoa. Turned the combat off and gave it a 10.
Yeah, he reviewed it and gave it a 10. Gave it a
got the 10
score.
because it gave him the option.
And I was just like, you didn't experience like half the game and you gave it a perfect score. I was like shocked. This was years ago. I was not at IGN. It was a different outlet. But I saw that. I was just like, whoa. But look, people, they have their own opinions, their own ways to experience the game. And it does give you an option to turn it off. But I was like, because I had a bunch of complaints about Persona 5 when it came out. I was like, the combat feels a little imbalanced. And the person that reviewed it was like, oh, I didn't experience any of that. I was like, what? Like, you didn't experience any of the things I have critiques on. That's wild.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I wanted to follow up on that because that's it's rare for me to finish games nowadays. So it was nice to actually finish that one. Nice. But we've got a couple other games to talk about, including Hogue. You said you have some Hogue's notes, and Travis is back to set you up.
I have so many Hogue's notes this week.
Hogue's notes. Hogue's notes. Now it's time for Hogue's notes.
All right, I'm going to try to not make this a 40-minute segment.
Yeah,
we've got a lot to talk about
here. The bullet points.
I'll be back
in
40 minutes.
But the one I really want to mention that I haven't seen really anybody talking about in any outlet is a game called Promise Mascot Agency.
We reviewed it.
You reviewed it? Well, I'm sorry I don't read Season Gaming. I've been outed.
This is the problem. This is the problem right here.
Games, I was going to review this game before I got put on the marathon assignment. So, yeah.
We not only reviewed it, our review is on the card from the publisher for the reviews.
Fantastic. Well, guys, Season Gaming's got you covered on this one. It's a super unusual game. You're an ex-Yakuza that lives in a world that has actual Japanese-style mascots that are out in the world, but they're all weird. They're the rejects of Mascot Land. So you're not getting your Power Rangers. You're not getting your Godzillas. You're getting severed fingers and cats that are covered in what he assures us is yam, but doesn't look like yam. And this game features essentially a long-form Yakuza series subquest in which you're trying to manage this mascot agency to make enough money to pay off other syndicates in Japan. And is super, super weird. But it is that kind of weird that I like to experience. It is the novel video game that has managing mascots at its center. I highly recommend checking it out. It is super weird. I wanted to make sure it got mentioned. Apparently, I didn't need to make sure because Season Gaming had already reviewed it. But it's really weird, and I recommend checking it out.
Yes, Lewis reviewed it for us. He really enjoyed it. He gave it an 8. And I believe it's actually sitting around low 80s in Open Critic, I believe. So it seems to be pretty well regarded.
That's pretty generous. In terms of gameplay itself, it's roughly at the level of something like No More Heroes. It's like deliberately bad gameplay. I never know what to do when I critique or review things like that. But it is strange. And if you like novelty and you want to experience something like a 1960s Japanese TV show with mascots that are otherwise advertising bookstores while you're a Yakuza trying to pay off debts, if that sounds like a good time for you, check it out. If that sounds like a bad time, I don't think the game trailers are going to convince you otherwise. Promise Mascot Agency, super weird. Check that out. I have another couple of call-outs here. I will try to make them short and sweet. You heard me mention earlier that Talos Principle, one of the best puzzle games of all time, in my opinion, that mixes portal puzzle rooms with deep questions of philosophy about the nature of man and robots and AI and all sorts of stuff like that, got a remaster that released on the same day as Blueprints that is an absolutely glorious graphical remaster. It basically updates Talos Principle 1 to how Talos Principle 2 looks, which is a big jump from the original game. And it's one of my favorite puzzle games of all time. And I think if you own, I don't know exactly where I got the discount from, but if you own some version of Talos in some capacity, they're giving good deals on this first week of release. So check it out. I don't know what the criteria was. So I know I got a big discount, but I don't know exactly why. It just said essentially loyalty.
I believe it's just a launch discount, because I know it's $40 marked down to 23 or 24.
I believe I paid 22. Yeah,
something like that.
So check that out. Talos Principle is one of the best puzzle games ever made. If you don't know about it, check it out. And I can recommend that one. I also wanted to mention, as I guess my last Hogs notes here, because I don't want to just do this for 40 minutes, sequel to one of my favorite is probably too strong, but one of the games that I enjoyed the most a number of years ago, Monaco, which is a heist Pac-Man from a number of years back, got a sequel that released this week, Monaco 2. And I think the graphics are probably a little less striking than the original. I'm not sure that the direction was super smart, but it's the same kind of running around, avoiding guards, getting coins that are floating in midair, action gameplay that I enjoyed the first time, now with even more kind of variations of the people and their skill sets that you can take into that particular section. So if you want to steal things, with friends, then sure, you could play whatever we made Travis play a couple years ago, Crime City, or you could play Monaco 2, and that game came out this week as well. So those are Hogs notes for this week.
I got that one. What's yours is mine, Hogue.
What's yours is mine was the subtitle for Monaco 1. Monaco 2 has ditched the subtitle. I don't know why.
It looks cool.
I still see what's yours is mine in my mind's eye. To me, the subtitle of Monaco 2 is also what's yours is mine.
It looks pretty cool. I'm watching the clip of it right now. Yeah.
It was a great week.
I've got like 9 games on my indie list that I need to finish Split Fiction. I need to start South of Midnight, Monaco 2. I probably won't get to playing Talos Principle. I've got every achievement in the original version, so I probably will just let that one lie.
This one has one of my favorite remaster collector's edition upgrades, which is that they've got developer commentaries that you can trigger. And for a puzzle game, I love that stuff.
Good. I'll just talk to the developers next time I see them.
We don't all have that opportunity, Travis.
I have a Hoax note, quick mention as well this week. A little game called Look Outside. It's a old school survival horror game set in an apartment building. It is it's a little $10 horror game. Our review is coming tomorrow on it. You can check that out. But again, it's sitting right now in the low 80s on OpenCritic. It's overwhelmingly positive on Steam, and people seem to be really enjoying this one. So if you like those kind of, to Hoag's point, not necessarily full indie, but I guess this one may be. But smaller, kind of cheaper, but still good experience games. This is one you may want to look at. So look outside.
Got a little I have no mouth, but I must scream vibe to it. Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting art style, and Ray, who reviewed it for us, your buddy Ray, Travis, he loved it. So,
speaking of must scream, I don't know if you guys noticed that Night Dive released a remaster of that on the console.
Yes. I bought it immediately. Great game.
Did see that.
Noted.
Yeah, I've never played it.
Oh, it's really good.
That is a dark as shit action adventure experience.
Yeah. So I'm buying it right now then.
I told Dee it was one of my favorite games, and she went and looked at the trailer, and she was like, I do not want to play this.
Yeah.
She was like, that is scary.
Be in the right,
that's a little grim.
Be in the right headspace.
Okay. Yeah. Now I definitely got to check it out.
It's going to take you down 3 to 5 headspaces.
You have to play that game. That game is we did not know what the game's medium was going to be at the time that game was made, and they were swinging for the fences.
If you want to imagine, I was playing it as a edgy teenager version of Hogue.
Nice.
So, yes, that was
edgy
quite the game.
Teenager Hogue. I need to see his character.
Eyebrow piercing. His hoodie was a little darker. Very cool. Yeah.
Oh man.
Life is suffering. Smoking a long cigarette through one of those cigarette holders.
Well, I have no mouth, but I must scream is a life is suffering type game. So.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a very pessimistic conclusion to society. I have a game I want to talk about. Speaking of games that have overwhelming Steam reviews, I was assigned because of its exploding online and IGN not having any plans to review it at the time. I was assigned Schedule 1,
Oh no.
a game on Steam. Are you guys familiar with this game?
Only because we interacted on X about it.
Yes.
So that was the first I heard about it.
That blew up. It is a game where you manufacture and distribute drugs in your neighborhood. It is. I did not know what to expect. It looked like a sandbox game, like Grand Theft Auto, if its budget was $500, right? Is sort of what I was expecting going into it. It is not that, which I'm going to write my review today. But my thesis of the review, which Tom begged me not to pursue, but I am pursuing it, is that this is a cozy game. And it is, in fact, a cozy game. It plays basically like Animal Crossing, where instead of giving gifts to your villagers, you are selling them drugs, like meth. And that is basically the game. I mean, you spend a lot of your time like inside an apartment farming. You're just like planting, marijuana plants, and you're growing them, and you're snipping the product, and you're putting the buds into little packets and into jars, and then you're going around the neighborhood, and you're building social links with your fellow townsfolk and selling them drugs with the goal of eventually upgrading your house and your production facilities and buying businesses so you can launder your money, etc. But it does not play like Grand Theft Auto. You do not spend your time running around being chased by cops and shooting them and that sort of stuff. You can do that if for some reason you decide you want that, but the game is like very clearly not intended for that. The cops don't really pursue you. They never break down the door to your house and say this is a raid and arrest people. It literally is just a game where you cozily do farming. It's basically Stardew Valley, except for instead of getting into farming, he gets into cooking meth and making cocaine. Like, that's literally the game. It's very bizarre, but it is kind of cathartic and nice. I'll put it this way. Dee was playing Wander Stop. She's like at the end of that game, and she was looking over at my game going, why is your game more cozy than mine? She wanted to play mine. And eventually I invited her over to help me every time I had to go and package the weed. She wanted to be the one to do it because she was like, this looks super fun and cozy. And so
we're still talking about the game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Imagine my wife at my desk, just like putting weed nuggets into baggies and just like having the most fun. And I was like, look,
I forget that's what you guys did in your spare time, honestly.
That's right. Yeah. I'm an entrepreneur, if nothing else.
This is the one with the characters that look like HR Puff and stuff, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
It's a very low budget, intentionally kind of, I assume intentionally kind of off-putting like character design, but it's basically Sesame Street where you're a drug peddler. And it's very nice. It's a nice
I'm looking at it right now. It's hilarious. Freight Conductor in our chat says the game's addicting as the product you sell.
It really is. Like, you'll lose hours. I was like, I don't really understand what the point of this game is. But then 4 hours went by and I was like, I get it. Got it. It just sort of blows by. And yeah, I like it. I think it's a very fun game. It's obviously early access. It's an unfinished product. The end of the game, you do like the last like 3 level grinds there's just nothing there. They run out of like the ending isn't there. Like, you get to the 3rd drug and then
it's early access.
It's early access, and so
Okay.
you're just grinding to nothing. Like, there's no additional dealers or suppliers to unlock or anything like that, and the world doesn't really fight back against you. And I'm not sure if their intention is to one day have that added in. But right now, it's just the coziest game imaginable. You just happen to be selling drugs.
I will say that one game I never brought up in Hoag's notes that I do enjoy is a game called Cartel Tycoon.
Nice.
In which
You're
running a drug empire from south of the border and otherwise taking over cities and getting into gang wars.
Nice.
That is not a cozy game. That's an empire builder of the Anno variety. But I can recommend that game. It's often on sale if you're interested.
There you go.
There you go. Bunch of drug dealers on this show.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be reviewing that this week. I expect to have something up tomorrow, and if you are part of this Steam barnstorming of this game, like, good on you. I think you found a good one. We would not have reviewed it if it were not for the sudden interest in this game, and I'm glad that the world is gonna, get to see a review on IGN.com of this super weird, very very indie game.
110,000 reviews at overwhelmingly positive on Steam.
I will lead the boycott of IGN for committing to this sorrowful act of harming the souls of our young gamer brethren.
Very good. Well, I, for one, say fuck the police.
Hogue playing the role of Congress this week, apparently.
It's so funny, right? Because I lived through the frickin' Night Trap and Mortal Kombat hearings.
Yeah.
And like, here we are in 2025, and IGN's going to review a game called Schedule 1. And we got Travis here speaking in light tones about the lovely coziness of putting buds in bags. It's quite a different world.
Try it for yourself, Hogue.
It
It is truly a cozy experience. I don't know.
I love cozy games. I didn't love Wanderstop so much, but I am amused by your.
Here's the thing. My wife also
the other screen.
My wife also doesn't really like Wanderstop. She got about halfway through it and she was like, "All right, this lady needs to wrap it up. Like she's grieving a little too much." So
she wrap it up.
Yeah, because if you know that game, it's like she's dealing with trauma, but then it sort of gets repetitive. Like she's just doing it over and over again, and you're like, "All right, man, get over it, lady." So. She fell off of Wanderstop for that reason, and then she looked at my game and was like, "How is your game more cozy? This is upsetting." And then she moved on to Blueprint. So, it's I'm glad this game is out there.
Well, I am 10 minutes from Missouri, otherwise known as the meth capital of the country, so we approve.
Sweet, very cool,
good,
very cool,
good.
Nice. Well, if they ever need a worker, I know how to do it now. I know the recipe.
I want that to be on that town's municipal signage.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. Good. Let's get caught up on some of these super chats and comments, and then we will get to Marathon. We got a lot to talk about with Marathon. We have questions to answer, a whole bunch of things I need to ask you, Travis. So let's get to these.
Anti-TJ. $2 super chat. I believe this is me with my meme face. What's up, guys? Let's talk about video games. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Well, but with the glasses on too. This is perfect.
Wait, let me do the face if I'm gonna read it. What's up, guys? Let's talk about video games. There we go.
Oh my god.
Here.
Yeah, I mean that's come on. Who else is doing this?
That's right.
Anti-TJ, thank you very much.
Why are you calling him Anti-TJ? He clearly made that account for this comment.
I know. That's Anti-TJ. That's him. Yeah. This person has made accounts before.
Known member of the community. Thanks, Anti-TJ. Like, come on.
This is a solid member of the community. Come on.
No, not a member of the community. You're not a real person. Stop.
Big Mad Mo with the member comment.
Big Mad Mo has been a member for 26 months and writes, "Shout out to the panel."
Shout out to you, Mo.
Yeah, he's Big Mad Mo is a regular. Been around for hanging around the SG for a while. Big supporter. So good to see him here. Hope you're doing well, my friend.
He and Anti-TJ go way back in the comments.
Yeah, they do.
It's cool.
They absolutely do.
Really
no
cool.
Painful Discourse.
Painful Discourse offers, I forget what this one is again.
Polish zloty.
Polish zloty, thank you. 10 Polish zloty, and says, "Can't you turn off combat in South of Midnight?" I believe you can.
Yes, I believe that came in. Sorry, that super chat came in like 25 minutes ago when we were talking about it. So sorry about that, but yes, we can. Or yes, you can, I should say. Thank you, Painful Discourse. Always good to have you hanging out with us. Regular with Big Mad Mo and Anti-TJ. Don Lionheart is here.
Don Lionheart, $5 super chat. Hello, casters. Being sick sucks. COVID sucks. Bleh. That's it. That's all I've got. Blowing nose emoji.
A lot of people sick right now, man. I don't know what's going on, but yeah,
I'm sorry about that, Don. It was fun broadcasting with you this last week.
Yeah, sorry about that, Don. Hope you're feeling better soon, my friend. Appreciate the super chat. And Eric is back. Eric was gonna join this week, but he and his family are sick as well, so he couldn't join. But
Game Positive offers $2.79 Canadian and writes, "Ole, ole, 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 #playoffs."
Yes, you did that correct. So that is the Canadians chant in the NHL.
Is that a Canadian thing?
Isn't that half the soccer teams in the world?
Canadians, the team.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Yes.
I was about to say, I feel like I've heard that.
And yes, so plenty of soccer or football
Yeah.
football teams, yes, do that as well. Yes, but in hockey, they're the only ones who do that.
I only know this because they chanted that in my fraternity sometimes. There's a little lore dump.
That is a little lore dump.
I was in a fraternity in college. That's fun.
That I cannot picture.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't try it.
It's just a house full of Travises.
No. I was the nerd of the group. They were all,
No.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. What
But
about
look,
anti-TJ? What was it?
look, somebody needs to raise the money for the nonprofit organizations in a fraternity, right? Somebody needs to handle the money and actually make sure that they're a chartered member. You need Travises in any organization, including a fraternity. So there you go.
That's fair. Very fair.
Yeah.
Eric, thank
Actually,
you.
wait, you met a bunch of my fraternity brothers at the wedding. Like a whole bunch of them. There's like half of the guys.
I don't think we talked about that, but yeah, that makes sense. And shout out to 1030 Media Group.
For those asking, obviously my fraternity would be beta, right? I'm sorry.
No, just saying shout out. Shout out.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you for becoming a channel member on the SG side. Appreciate you. All right. Let's get into Marathon, my friends. So, Travis, you were at a Bungie last week, so setting the table here, right? We've known about Marathon. There were some kind of early leaks of early testing of this game, and it's kind of Bungie's core development right now. I think I heard in one of their creator thing over 300 devs at Bungie, or combined Bungie PlayStation working on this right now. So we get the reveal yesterday. You got to spend some time there this week. The real high level before you go into detail here is that they announced that there is an alpha coming, so you can hopefully get a key. It's a closed alpha, so you can try and get a key to play. April 23rd, so 10 days from now. And the game is releasing on September 23rd this year.
So the alpha date.
Yeah, so they are seemingly not afraid of whatever else may release at that time. And they have also announced that this will be a paid game. This is not free to play. If I'm correct, they didn't announce the price, but they just said it will be.
No, they got real weird with Sony marketing terms on Twitter. It was strange.
It's because there is a precedent for games like this to be free, and this is not a free game. But they're also wanting to be clear that they're not charging full price for it. So it is most likely $30-$40 game. My guess would be $40.
Yes, it's the Gentleman Concord's 40.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, I've got a lot of things to ask. We have questions from the community on this one, but why don't you go ahead and just start with the trip and kind of initial thoughts, impressions, commentary.
I'll start with what the game is, because I think a lot of people are confused about that. So the game Marathon is an extraction shooter. If you do not know what an extraction shooter is, it is like a game called Escape from Tarkov that you may or may not have heard of, but it is a pretty popular game wherein you and a group of your friends are deployed into a battlefield, very much like a battle royale. Your goal is to run around and gather loot via PvE combat, where you're fighting AI-controlled enemies that are around the map and taking their loot and looting chests and that sort of thing. But the twist is that you're dropped on this map with a bunch of other teams. Depending on the size of the map, it could be different numbers of teams. And that allows for PvP encounters. And because your goal is to grab loot and get out and extract, if you try to extract, it sends a giant halo light beacon into the sky, blue light that lets the entire map know exactly where you are and that you're trying to make off with loot, allowing other people the opportunity to try and come and fight you and take your loot from you. And so it is a PvPvE, I think is the new parlance.
Yeah, they got the little AI robots running around.
Yeah. And so it is very different from anything Bungie has done before. It's closer to a battle royale in structure than like a Halo arena shooter by a lot. Like it has a lot in common with that sort of game, but with a different kind of end goal in terms of what you're actually trying to accomplish on each run. And when PUBG came out, there were a bunch of big companies that were trying to take what PUBG's idea was, which was this battle royale mode, and say, can we make that more polished? Can we make it AAA? Can we make it more approachable to a mass audience, and out of that came Fortnite. And with Escape from Tarkov being as big as it is now, I think there's a lot of companies out there that are sort of having an arms race to try to become the Fortnite of the genre, of the extraction shooter genre. And that is essentially what my preview is about, is like this is Bungie's play at doing just that. They want to become the Fortnite of this emerging genre that seems to have a lot of popularity and potential behind it as a new genre of multiplayer type game. And so that's what Marathon is. That's their bid.
Not to interrupt you, but keep in mind too, they're going to be on all platforms, whereas Tarkov, which is, as Travis said, very popular in the extraction space, is only on PC today anyway.
Correct.
And it does appear to be a cross genetic combination with something like Apex, with at least what they described from what I could see. You've played this, Travis.
Yes.
But they've got character archetypes with specific skill sets and things that'll go out in teams of 3. So it does appear to be taking ideas from a number of these different types of games at the same time.
Yeah.
I
think is more a kind of a symptom of like its hero shooter formula, where like you get a character and they have a super ability and then a couple side abilities that they can put together and passives and that sort of thing. And so structurally it is not more similar to Apex than any other battle royale. But if you've played a battle royale, you'll kind of get the gist of like, you know, there's a lot of this shared terminology, like, oh, we got third partied, which means you were fighting another team and then a third team came and fought you, and you're listening out for gunshots for, oh, they must be fighting over there, let's go and ambush them. And it has a very similar kind of like, it'll appeal to people who play battle royales, I think, a lot.
Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest it was the game Apex. The characters and the archetypes that I saw them describe reminded me of that the most. And certainly picking 3 as your crew is reminiscent of Apex in my head.
Sure.
Yeah, it definitely, a lot of people were kind of making comparisons, right? It seems to be a mashup, to Travis's point, of a few different things. One of the big questions we get, Travis, is how many players? I believe is 6 player teams, right, of 3 combined with.
So
their upper number said 18.
It actually depends on which map you're playing on. So if you play on the smallest map, Perimeter, which is sort of like the intro map, I believe it's 3 or 4 teams. And then the teams become a little bit murky because you can choose to not have matchmaking. You can go and by yourself as your own team, and they do not then reduce the number of teams and make it so that you're just taking a team slot. They will try to find another team of 2 players or 2 more teams of 1. It's total players. And so the number of teams kind of is dynamic. And then some of the maps that are biggest will have like 8 teams on it. And so you have a total of like, you know, well, I think 8 teams is more than they do. 6?
The highest number they said was 18.
6 teams of 3, I think, was the highest. Yeah.
6 teams of 3. So there's also a 4th map that's coming out like a couple weeks after the game that is in the Marathon ship that's been built into the moon, the original trilogy's setting, that they have said nothing about, but they said it's their biggest, most complicated map, and so that might increase the team count or something. I'm not really sure, but they're holding some of the stuff back from us. But the other thing about the extraction shooter people should know is part of the genre is that the loot that you grab, you then use on your next run. So it's not like a battle royale where you're dropping with nothing and you have to find loot there. You get to bring loot with you, but any loot that you decide to deploy with you on a mission, if you die on that mission and are unable to complete the level and extract, you lose it. And if another player kills you and takes it, it's their loot now. And so there is a risk reward, which I call gear fear, which is you're bringing gear in and you have to worry about potentially losing it. But there's also no drawback to using it, because if you don't use it, it just sits in your vault, and then it's a seasonal model where it resets every season, so you're going to lose it anyway. So there's really no reason not to jump in and use your best loot, unless you're saving it for a specific mission or you want to use it on a different map or whatever. But that's sort of the extraction shooter genre. So Marathon, if you didn't know, is taking a beloved trilogy Bungie did in the 90s called Marathon, and it's reimagining it as an extraction shooter using a lot of the setting. This is covered in my preview, and it's something I'm sure Hogue is going to absolutely despise. But when I ask about their commitment to the Marathon setting, they said, well, we're taking some liberties and we're kind of doing our own thing, but it's inspired by it and we're going to have callbacks to it. And so I found that answer somewhat unsatisfying because as somebody who thinks of those games fondly, and
I think
would
as
have
soon as
liked
you
them.
saw the trailers, you could tell that the use of the Marathon brand was robots and rampancy, and that's probably the end of this story.
I don't know if it's quite that bad. They do have a narrative team. I talked to people on their narrative team, and they're super passionate about it, and they love the source material. It was more just like Marathon makes some pretty big decisions, and they didn't want to feel like they were tied to some of those. So I get their reasoning, but I don't know if this is going to be the game you play if you're super into the story and lore of Marathon. And I could be wrong. They are hiding stuff. They almost certainly lied to me on a few questions I asked when I was talking about like hidden secrets and stuff like that. And they were like, nah, not really.
How much does Durandal show up?
Yeah, we'll see.
That was one of your questions?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the number of teams fluctuates in this game, but it is effectively a Bungie shooter, which if you know Bungie, they're damn good at that. It feels immediately really, really good.
It looks It looks
and you're deploying into a map and you're fighting AI. The AI is super challenging. Like they will just absolutely crap on you. I went into my first match playing it like it was Destiny. So I said, "Oh, there's some enemies over there. They're clearly pushovers because they're just like robots, right? Anytime you see a robot enemy in a game, your brain is trained like they're slow, their aim is bad."
It is funny. That's how I saw the first gameplay reveals. I was like, "Oh, just shoot those robots."
Yeah, they are
Mhm.
not easy. It turns out if you run in between three robots, they will immediately down you and then go over to your body and execute you. And you'll be like, oh, damn, you just got destroyed. My first encounter was I just immediately got downed and I was like, okay, so I guess we should take it slow in this game. And then my buddy rezzed me and then we started playing the game and never happened again. But, you know, the AI is not a pushover. They're teams you actually have to worry about. And then as you go through each area, you are looking for loot. There's little kind of puzzles to solve. Like maybe you find a room that's filled with toxins and you have to figure out how to drain the room. And maybe when you do that, it makes a bunch of noise and draws people around and other players can know that you're doing it. Or maybe you find an antidote that gives you temporary immunity to that toxic. And then you're able to run in and loot as much as you can, etc. There's like little kind of encounters and things to do. You can explore underneath these facilities and find like these tick life forms that are spawning and running at you. They're like these big ticks that try to jump on you and clamp on your face. You're doing that stuff. But while all that's going on, you're constantly aware that there are other teams around and that if they see you, there's a pretty good chance they are going to try to kill you and take your stuff. And so that is the dynamic. It makes every game feel extremely tense. And you have to communicate. Or if you're like me and you're just a complete reprobate, you're like, well, why would I even engage with the PvE stuff? I'll let other people do that, and then I'll just kill them and take it after they've done all the work.
Which is what I spent, strategy.
Which is what I spent most of my time doing. I was just like, the real loot boxes are other players, and I just went hunting, which worked for me. But
work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly. Just kill other players.
This is how Travis plays Showdown. I know it to be true.
Oh yeah, it's 100% how.
Can I ask you a quick question? I feel like I'm going to forget some of the things I want to ask you if I don't interrupt you, so I don't want to cut you off.
Please interrupt me. Please interrupt me.
On these environmental interactions, and again, I recognize your time with it was limited, right? But these types of things, do you feel that they are going to be, are there enough variety of them, or are they randomized in terms of location? Is it anything procedurally generated? Because obviously people are they're going to no life this game. Right. Yep. They're going to jump in. They're going to play this game for 12 hours a day. And when you're doing that in a few maps with the same type of interaction things, that's going to be repetitive very quickly. So how are they addressing that? Did they touch on it?
So the maps are not procedural. They are static. And so anytime you drop on a map, it's just like in a battle royale where you're like, we're at this location. If we want to get to a thing, we have to go to this location. The things that change are there are randomly spawned, not randomly, but there's a few areas that you can spawn specific activities like a boss fight. There are bosses that hang out on the maps and they drop some really good loot and you can try to challenge them. There are steps that you have to go through to actually get the boss to be able to fight the boss, because they're in like an area where if you walk into it, you'll take damage. Normally you have to like find items and challenge them. And so like I was playing with one of the developers and then the guy at Polygon. So most crews had like one developer on their team just because the developers knew what was up. And as soon as you drop into a map, they go, okay, we're in this area. If you want to get a backpack, they commonly spawn in this area. If you want to get a new shield, they commonly spawn in this area. And so you sort of know which directions to go. But there's also additional points of interest on the map that are not random, but they are not always the same. And so you're like, okay. And then there's also each team has something called a profit opportunity, which is a quest that's specific to you that spawns somewhere on the map, and you have to go to that and grab it, and it gives you like your main loot for the game. It's like the main thing you're trying to do in each match is complete your profit opportunity before extracting, because you get like a big package that gives everybody credits and other stuff. And other players can find your profit opportunity, but they can't interact with it. They have to wait for you to complete your profit opportunity, and then they can jump in and kill you and take the stuff that you got from it. And so there's a little bit of like dynamic with that. It's like, all right, we spawned in this area, our profit opportunity is over there, but actually right here you can see that somebody's got a profit opportunity waiting, and maybe we'll come back here when we hear some shooting and we'll kill them and take their stuff after they complete it. And so there's a little bit of an interaction there. In terms of the like toxic room, as one of the examples I gave, those will typically appear in the same, they'll have a couple variations where maybe it's this room, maybe it's that room, but there's not a lot of variety there. And I do think that there is a question of like, how do they nail variety? I think the one thing that they have going for them is they have multiple maps, and they're going to be pumping out maps pretty quickly, including one that comes out right after the game, like within the first month of launch. They're going to have,
I believe they said they're launching with 3. The 4th will come out right after launch.
Yeah, it's going to be like, I think it's going to be something players unlock is the current theory, right? And so there's probably might be like some
community.
Sort of, yeah, there might be some sort of community driven thing where its release date isn't written in stone. It's going to kind of depend. Yeah, it's I think that they have that going for them, where it's like, okay, we've played perimeter a lot. Now let's go over to the Dire Marsh, which is their biggest map at launch, and let's go and figure out that map and run around. And then there's a third map you can go to. And so I think that dynamic is going to be like learning the maps, knowing the call outs, knowing the big locations, knowing kind of generally where people tend to spawn. And so you kind of know that there must be a team over there and a team over there. And so we'll avoid them, or we'll run toward them, or this zone tends to be really hot because it's right in the middle of the map.
Yeah.
Perimeter has like a spoke and wheel, or like there's like one area and hub and spoke, and so there's a hub and then lots of little areas around it, and so you know that the hub is going to be like the most PvP focused, and if you spawn there you have to decide, we're standing our ground, we're fighting here, or we're going to run off and you go to a different area and then circle back around. And so, if I'm thinking about this correctly,
so what will make that more exciting is the fact that when you launch into the world, right, you never know, for the other real players entering that match with you, they could have a whole bunch of loot on them already, because you're taking that loot back in there with you, right? So it's not like you're, to your point of not really a battle royale, you're not starting fresh every single time you play. You could kill somebody and get like I'm making this up, but a really rare golden item you didn't expect to get right out of the gate.
That's actually, you didn't make that up. You're correct. Exactly. There's really rare golden items, and they are game-changing items. For example, during my time, we only found one legendary because they're really rare. They're like coveted, right? We found a backpack that you can wear. It gives you max inventory space, which on its own is huge. But it also, its exotic perk is that anytime you interact with a container or any sort of loot box, you become completely invisible.
Oh,
completely invisible, like Harry Potter invisibility cloak invisibility. like you could be standing in the same room as somebody and they will not be able to tell you're there, right? And so that was like one of those things where once we had that, like you're getting chased by the team, you can throw down a smoke bomb, run around the corner and interact with like a random container, and then they'll run around the corner and be like, oh, he's gone. Like that's just it. Like, and then they'll move on. And so it has completely game-changing effects that you can find. The cool thing about this game is that, unlike Destiny, where you have different characters and you're like, oh, are you Titan or are you Hunter? You don't have to worry about that in this game, because the characters you're playing as are shells. And so you're actually some amorphous entity out in outer space, putting yourself into these different bodies. And so your loot carries over, and you can just switch characters willy-nilly in between each match. And you're kind of putting your consciousness into different,
depending on how you want to play,
sleeves. Yeah, it also is not just depending on how you play. It's like that group dynamic, like, oh, we need a healer, or oh, we need somebody who can ping off enemies and the Blackbird, or I found a really good item but it works best with this character, and so I'm just going to switch and start maining that character because of loot reasons, right? In terms of the meta progression,
Yeah.
That's where I was going. Like, what is that?
There is a meta progression, and it's actually pretty satisfying, which is there's missions you can complete on each extraction, and you actually don't need to successfully complete the extraction to complete the mission. And so sometimes you'll have a mission that's like, hey, go and loot 3 chests from this area. If you can make it to the area and loot some chests, you complete the objective, even if you die and lose all your loot and get the fail state of extraction, or you just don't make it to the extraction point in time. That's totally fine. You complete the quest, and then you go back up into space, and you complete the quest, and you're leveling up with these factions. And they have these factions that are really cool. Like they all have like a personality and kind of swagger to them, and you're immediately like, okay, I get it, right? Like one of them is just the business corporation. They have a monopoly on business. Like they're just like, you get to them and you're like, okay, I get their vibe. They're like super, uber capitalists, just in space doing capitalist stuff.
When you say you get to them, really cool. What do you mean? You're not playing the game at this point. Is this
You're not
menus?
playing the game. You're interacting. It's menus. So you're like clicking on their icon, and it'll play a little video, and you're unlocking story snippets, and there's voice acting and some cutscenes and videos and that sort of stuff. And you're unlocking progression that way. You're also unlocking perks that can increase your stats, and so you can get stats like your heat, so that you overheat less frequently. Or one thing that I think is really clever in this game is there's a stat called loot speed. So anytime you interact with a container, the loot starts loading in one at a time, and it takes a while, which is important in this game because time is precious. And if you're looting somebody's backpack and their teammate is still alive, you're giving them a chance to get away or possibly get the angle on you, and they know that you're going to loot their friend, and so they're shooting at you. And so there's items you can get, like a quick hands, I think it's called, mod. It's a legendary item that like instantly you reveal all the loot right away. That's like a perk. Or you can just build into your loot speed so that loot populates a lot quicker.
So you do have statistics on your profile, not by class.
It's not by class. Actually, it's both. So you have it on your profile where you're unlocking like permanent upgrades through perks. And then part of it is based on what equipment you have. So if you have a specific mod onto your build that's equipped to whichever character you're using, that might increase or modify it. And then also the characters themselves have intrinsic values for each of those perks. And so it's sort of a combo of like your loadout, the perks you've unlocked, and the character you're using, and that all creates kind of your stat blocks for the game.
Interesting.
So you're jumping in, and
on the loot piece, you know me, loot fanatic. So when you are killing people or getting this stuff, what does the loot consist of? So like when we say loot, and you're talking about golden items or exotic things, legendaries, like the whatever word you want to use. You say that carries over, and then you carry it into your next match, and you're continually grinding up. Is there permanent loot? Like, is there loot that levels up your character, makes you better, like a normal like ARPG style, or is all the loot itself just ongoing and trading and dying and getting rid of it, and you're really just using the loot to upgrade your perks and stats?
Yeah, there's basically no permanent progression in this game. The permanent progression is the meta progression, where you're unlocking like perks through the faction upgrades, and those are permanent for the entirety of the season at least. And so that is sort of the reason you can continue to play matches and feel like you're progressing, even if you're not necessarily winning all the matches, or if you suffer a devastating loss and lose like all your best stuff. It's not like game over because they're making it easier on you. For example, there's a space called the black market that is in menus, and it's in between matches. You can buy stuff. And so this is helpful if like, all right, I'm out of like shield recharges or healing kits. So I'll buy some of those and I'll throw them in my backpack. That way I always am entering the match with at least like 2 stacks of shield recharge and medical kits. Like that was my strategy, right? But let's say that you get wiped and you lose all of your loot. Like you basically have nothing. You can buy stuff from the black market. And at the beginning, the black market gear is really bad. But if you upgrade a couple of factions, suddenly you can buy green backpacks and green shields from the black market. And so you never have to worry about going to a match with like literally nothing, right? And so it gives you a little bit of like almost a permanent upgrade to the lowest you can get in terms of not having to reset. And that's huge because the standard backpack you get is way too small. Like I actually gave them that feedback of like even for that part of the game, it's too small because it can fit like 2 items in it. And so what that means is you drop into a match, you grab 2 items, and you're like, well, we better extract because there's no point because I can't fit any of the loot that we find unless I find a backpack specifically. There's no reason to stay here. And so we would just drop down and then 2 minutes later be like, let's head to the extraction zone. And until we got a green backpack, we were just doing that over and over again. And so that kind of decreases how low you can go if you just get wiped by somebody. And I assume that they're going to have upgrades where like, okay, now you can get a blue backpack and a blue shield by default. So you never have to worry about getting lower than that. And so there's stuff like that. The actual loot, though, to answer your question, if there's 2 things Bungie has absolutely nailed in this game, it is the gunplay, no surprises there, and it is the loot. The loot is fantastic. The loot is fantastic for a couple reasons.
I'm side-eyeing you. I'm listening.
I mean, they crushed the loot in this Ains. Like, not only because legendaries are so rare. I think we saw 2 legendaries as a group of 50 that entire week, right? And so we like the backpack was the one that we found, and then somebody else found, I think, a golden shield. There might have been one other one, maybe somebody found a gun or something, but there was basically only like 2 or 3. And it was funny to watch those get passed around. Somebody would die, and then they'd be like, "Now he's got the golden shield," and you'd kind of be tracking where it was, right, in the world. But the loot is super rare and extremely impactful. Like you find an SMG that's blue early on in the game, the Bulldog, and that completely changes how you play the game, because suddenly you're like, okay, this is like an SMG that's deadly up close, but also I can get a scope on it that snaps on and lets me kind of like almost snipe with it from afar. Not as effective as using an actual sniper, but you can win encounters that way because it's so surprising to just get bursted with an SMG from like, you know, a pretty solid distance. Like I found a purple rifle that could take people down in 2 taps. Completely changed how I played the game. I started playing as Void, the stealth character, hiding in smoke clouds. I was like following, you can see this in the footage of my preview. I'm like behind my group a lot, just like waiting for PvP groups to jump out and try to surprise them close range. And then I'm just tapping their heads, pop, 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 just taking them down. So that was a lot of fun. And then once you find a legendary, the legendaries have unique perks that change things, like give your character a triple jump. There's one character that has a double jump, and if you find a certain mod, you can equip it while using that character and get a triple jump, which completely changes movement and allows you to get to places other characters can't and do some interesting plays with that. We haven't even talked about the character classes, but the characters, they've really done a good job there. But let's get there. I got a couple other questions here, and I've got questions from people. So we've talked about on the gunplay. So what is the variety like in terms of weaponry? Are we standardized here? Are there like ARs, SMGs, sniper rifles, pistols? Is it that? How customizable are the guns? And do you find, is it like a PUBG style where you're finding attachments that change the amount of ammo you can hold, your scopes, and is that all randomized as well as you're out there? Yeah, so when you find a weapon, sometimes it'll have mods on it already, but the mods, each weapon has 4 mod slots. One of them is a scope, there's a grip, I think there's a stock that changes ammo, and so you're kind of playing around with that. I didn't have a ton of time to dedicate to that because I had 2 days and I was just trying to get as much gameplay as possible, but the weapons are customizable, and the options for changing the attachments definitely changed the way the gun feels. Like getting the right scope on the SMG completely changed the way I used that weapon. I was using it like in mid-range distance basically, because I had really good like burst control and just going at people from windows and that sort of stuff. The weapons are there's like no crazy things like grenade launchers or rocket launchers in the build I played. That I've apparently seen some art where somebody had a rocket launcher in it, and I was like, okay, I didn't see that in the game. But sniper rifle feels so damn good. Even the low ranking one, like I really early in the game, I got like a gray sniper, and I was just like, dude, Bungie is so good at this, because I was like, I just all I want to do is just snipe people now. It immediately sold me on wanting to do that. And then when I found a really good SMG, I was like, oh, forget snipers. I'm just going to play really fast-moving characters, and I'm going to get close to people and just burst down their shields. That was super fun. You can find a shotgun that does the same thing. I actually didn't find a good shotgun, but people had them because I saw people boosting around and shotgunning others. yeah, and then later on I found that 2-tap rifle, and I basically rolled with that for the rest of the sessions because we didn't lose a single match after that, because my buddy had a golden backpack, I had the purple thing, and we were crushing
Nice.
people. It was pretty fun.
So
yeah,
movement. So
yes,
I've seen a lot of people comment in the videos that movement seems slow.
it is.
Okay, so we know what
Yeah.
Destiny feels like. We obviously know what Halo feels like, right? In terms of movement and vaulting, jumping, you said one character class has a double jump.
Yep.
What's that feel like?
Yeah, so movement is an area I think they could improve. My understanding, based on the progress I made while I was there, is that you start really movement restricted, and your movement opens up as you upgrade. There's something called a heat system, which basically, if you sprint for like 5 seconds, you run out of heat, and then your character becomes really sluggish and moves slowly.
No.
It does that all the time, right? But as you upgrade that, it becomes a lot more lenient, and then you also gain tools to reduce the heat. The same character that double jumps, she's all about movement, and her prime ability, which is like their supers, is that her heat just gets reduced a ton, and she gains the ability to like move a lot more, right? The reason the heat system exists is because movement being restricted makes sense in this type of game, because otherwise you could just run away from every encounter, right? You just never get caught. And so this makes it so if you're running away, you can only get so far, and so you have to use your movement really strategically, of like, all right, I'm not just going to run into the woods like a mile away. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'll get shot partway through. So instead, let's run behind that little shack over there and figure out a game plan. Like, so it forces you to kind of like take small jumps. And so I get what they're going for, and I think it makes sense. Like, you should not just have unlimited sprint in this game. I think it would break the balance of the game inherently. It would make PvP encounters not really work. And it would also mean that characters that use heat to activate their abilities, like double jump, costs heat. One of the characters, Locust, has like a horizontal dash that costs a ton of heat. If you do like one of those early in the game, you're basically out. And so it makes that, like, using that ability have like actual weight to it. It's like, yeah, I'm dashing to the left to get behind something, but then after that I need to like hunker down and figure out a plan. And I think by the end of my session, the heat wasn't bothering me as much because I'd done upgrades and gotten some equipment and that sort of stuff. But the feeling of dying and losing your equipment that reduces heat, and you do have perks that permanently upgrade it and that sort of stuff, but I see that being a problem. And also it does feel a little too oppressive. I would like to be able to get maybe 2 or 3 dashes in as Locust before I'm completely out. And so I think they're a little unforgiving there. I think if there's any area in terms of gameplay that they have the most room to improve from the alpha, I think movement is without question the thing that they need to tune right now. So
hey.
Nice. You got to pace yourself in a marathon.
Nice.
Well played, sir.
By the way,
well
one of my questions I asked the developers that was extremely annoying was, what do you call it when you guys play marathon for a really long time?
I bet they loved you over there.
They didn't have an answer for that one. I was like, checkmate, bro.
So Travis, I don't play Tarkov. I don't even really play Showdown all that often.
Sure.
But as you describe it, with people being able to bring things in that they've earned over the course of their playtime, how does this not just stratify into the people that love playing Marathon have all this great stuff? They pop in, there's 7 teams that can just destroy you, and you're just out of luck.
Before you answer, sorry. So I did hear Bungie, because I want to hear your answer tied to Hoag's question. Hoag's question, I think, is one of the most important questions for this game, because it ties to both time invested versus skill level, but also casuals versus hardcore, right? But I heard Bungie say something to the effect of skill and strategy are always going to be the primary thing you need in this game. So
they
that's
said a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So like, to Hoag's point, how weighted is that?
I would disagree with Bungie's assertion that they're not going to have a situation where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Okay. I think if you're already at a skill advantage because you have more time in the game, or you're just generally better at shooters, and you have better equipment, it puts people with lower skill at a pretty unenviable position.
I would imagine,
in terms of their chances to win. And so Bungie, this was something I grilled them on every single time I talked to them, and they didn't have a great answer. Their answer was, so for those of you who don't know, Ziegler is the game director on this, and he worked on Valorant. And Valorant is a really hardcore game.
There's a lot of Valorant vibes in
It's
Marathon.
Very hardcore. This is Bungie's most hardcore game. It is meant for sweaty people. It is basically their answer to, hey, yeah, PvP is pretty much dead in Destiny, but we have this, and it's Bungie gunplay, and it's a PvP first game. And so I think they are intentionally appealing to that audience. Their answer was, well, I think if you look at what happened with Valorant, the answer is everyone's hardcore. Look at how popular battle royales are.
That is an answer.
Yeah, but to their point, like battle royales are the most popular game format in the game right now. I would describe battle royales as pretty sweaty, hardcore game mode.
But a battle royale, I could re-download Fortnite right this second. The nature of that game is that you're naked going in. So yes, you can have knowledge, but you're not coming in with somebody with a gold shield and a purple shotgun. And
so that is like, I'll say this: the shield is probably the thing that changes you the most. Like you can getting those few extra hits is huge, but if you are a poorly looted team that is working together and knows what they're doing, and you approach somebody who's got a gold shield and you're sneaking up from behind them and hit you with a grenade, they basically have no counter to that. If you catch them flat-footed and hit them with a grenade, it's over. Or if you catch them in a combat, they're in a fight with another team, and you're able to take advantage of that and third-party them and get a couple lucky shots. Basically, is it impossible for a lower skilled, poorly looted person to kill another team? No, and I don't think that they've made gold shields or the loot that you can get so powerful that it's basically outmatched every single time by somebody.
But right now, you're not describing structural solutions. You're describing a situation where you drop into Fortnite, you hide in a bush for the first 80 eliminations, and then, sure, you could possibly sneak up on the guys with all the elite weapons that have built 3 towers and have a sniper perch. But probably you're not gonna. Like, as it stands right this second, if you aren't putting in the time, if you aren't putting in the sweat, it seems like it's going to build a moat around this game, unless I'm misunderstanding what the structure is.
No, I think that is the big question. If you read my preview, that's basically something I talk about for like 3 paragraphs in that preview. It's like, look, Destiny already has this problem of the rich get richer, poor get poorer. If you have loot in Destiny, it's way easier to take on the more difficult activities and get better loot. And if you don't, or you're worse at the game, you basically have no chance of ever getting up there. And then especially when you're talking about PvP, you bring that loot into PvP, you're already good at the game. Now you have the best loot, and you're playing against people who can't get that loot because they're not good enough to get it. And then, it feels bad.
But did they talk at all about having like a 0 to hero toggle or something, like a mode that was just,
or matchmaking
you're going to drop naked?
So I grilled them about that. There's no 0 to hero mode where you drop to naked. I think that would be kind of against the core principles of the game of like, you get the loot and you bring it in and you.
I get it, but their core principles might not sell.
I think their core principles are going to get an audience just based on the extraction shooter's popularity already. Like, people like that format. I just think it limits the audience to people who are pretty hardcore or interested in PvP. And I'm curious, is that audience as big as they seem to think it is? Because their answer was, look, games like Valorant prove that everyone's hardcore.
Yeah, and does it exist on consoles?
Yeah, that's the other question. Well, I think it probably exists, certainly on Xbox. There's a lot of sweaty shooter people.
Not positive anything exists on Xbox this moment, but
well, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. But yeah, I share that concern. I did ask them about their, like, what is their solution there? Their answer was interesting. I don't know if the premise is something I buy, but their answer was, we're doing 2 things. The first thing is there's in-game progression that kind of implies the higher skilled people aren't even going to be playing on the same maps as the people who are early on. That's important to take into account. So if you're playing on Perimeter, the first and one of the smallest maps, you're usually pretty early in the game. And if you are higher looted, higher skilled, you're done with the missions that have you on Perimeter, and you're off in Dire Marsh running around and you're engaging in combat. And so there's a little bit of division just based on the maps you're selecting. Now, there's nothing keeping you from going back to Perimeter and playing there as a higher tier character.
Yes, you're the ones constantly telling me that people like to smurf, I believe you said. So like,
yes,
you need to make sure
that's why I'm happy it's a paid game.
Exactly. I think that's why it's paid. But also that and for anti-cheat. But no, so the smurfing would make sense if they just want to show off their skill on a new character. But it doesn't make sense if you but it doesn't make sense if you are a better looted character, because Perimeter's loot is worse. And so there's no reason to go back and like farm there because you're going to be fighting against other players that largely have worse loot than you, so there's no reason to loot them. And you're going to be playing on a map that you can't find as good loot on. And so there's very few reasons to go there unless you're completing a specific quest.
Makes sense.
So part of the matchmaking division is just the map you chose to be on, and you're kind of picking the map you're ready for. That's the first thing. The second thing is there is matchmaking. And it is based on your, like, essentially your play time, how much time you've put into it. And there might be other factors that are hidden in there. They were kind of opaque about it, which is not uncommon for developers to
probably
not really
a good thing.
describe it. Yeah, they probably should keep it because people try to manipulate it once they know how it works. But they do have a matchmaking that basically tries to guarantee you're not going to go up against the craziest streamer if it's your first match, and that you're not going to get a bad taste in your mouth. The main concern I have about this game is getting people past the first 2 to 3 hours, because I played with a group of 50 people. I happened to be on a team. I got lucky. The guy from Polygon was pretty good. And then we had a dev with us who was pretty handy as well. Our team was really sweaty. We only lost like 2 matches, but there were people sitting like right next to me and behind me who walked out from the first 2 hours of that session were like, this does not feel good. We are just getting destroyed, right? Part of that is kind of Bungie's fault. They were shooting a commercial there, and so they put all the streamers on the same team, and they had all played 60 hours of the game because they were play testing. And so literally they were like, we just need to get footage of you just clowning on a bunch of people who are playing this game for the very first time today. And they did that for the entire weekend, and there were people that were like, this doesn't really feel great as a first experience, just like going up against Dr. Lupo and Tens and these other people who are all on a team together just destroying us. So that was kind of Bungie's own
I don't know
fault.
why I'm laughing. That's not really funny, but it's kind of funny.
No, it's hilarious.
I watched that commercial.
You guys saw the commercial. It was part of the stream. They were
those are 6 videos that are on,
and everyone who was on those teams, they were like they were play testers who had like 60 plus hours in the game, and they were playing against media people who were playing it for the first time. And so I went in with like pride. I was like, I don't care you played 60 hours. I'm looking for you, and I'm going to fight you. Like I was like looking for a fight. But there were a lot of people there who were like, I'm just trying to figure out the controls. And then there were sweat lords just coming in and just dripping on them. And it was really, really aggressive. And we went to lunch that day, and everybody was like I would say like maybe 40% of the players were like, I don't know, man. It's brutal. Now we were
when later on I say that I don't love the sweaty metaphor.
Yeah.
I want everybody to understand that I can point back to when you talked about sweat lords dripping on people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when the metaphor lost me.
Boom. There we go. All right. So, but one more thing. These media people who were not having a good time, they were forced to play past the first 2 to 3 hours, which they admitted themselves did not feel good. And the second day and the later sessions, they were way more optimistic. I would say by the end of the week, everyone left being like, this game's super fun. I like it. I had a good time. Everybody felt that way, like everyone I talked to. But people who play this game are not necessarily going to play past the first 2 to 3 hours, especially if they don't feel good. And so my main concern is not that the game won't be good long term if you stick with it and feel good. My concern is in those first 2 to 3 hours, it's scaring people off of the game forever, because those are the most important part of any game, especially PvP games. And if you get a bout of bad luck, or just you're running up against people who are out looting you, out playing you constantly, you're just going to drop off before you find the part of the game that really, really hooks you. And this game hooked everyone who played it that week, but it was just like it has a bit of a rough climb. And so I really hope Bungie looks at the first 2 to 3 hour experience and finds a way to make that feel good. And again, maybe this is just a problem with that specific playtest because of the dynamics. I happen to get matched with a fellow competent shooter person from a different outlet. And then the streaming teams were just like intentionally made to destroy the people they were playing against. They're basically playing against dummies, like test dummies, right? And unfortunately for those people. And so it might have just been the dynamic of Bungie trying to do a press event and also shoot a commercial at the same time, which I would have not done in the same session. I would have split those ideas apart and just focused on doing one thing at a time. So that might just be a result of that. But my impression, just talking to other people who did not have a good first couple hours with the game, is that, that might be their biggest problem.
Well, historically, Bungie's always been great at onboarding.
Yeah. We have made that
Um,
joke many times in the Bungie community about how this game feels and how Destiny feels. Now, I will say they're completely different games. It's obviously really hard to onboard people to a shooter MMO that's been in activity for 10 plus years. That's just like
But
a hard.
they have not cracked that nut.
They have not cracked that nut. I will say PvP is a lot easier to do. And so I would just say, Bungie, look at the first 2-3 hours, please, if you're watching this. And I think at least a couple devs are. So yeah,
I got to be honest, Travis. I got to be honest. After this conversation, after watching their videos, I think it likely that they're going to lose me before the first 2 hours.
Oh, I think so. I would be surprised if you play this game at all, and I would in fact not recommend you do, because it's not for you. It's for me. It's for
except they're using my IP.
Yeah.
Look,
Amen.
It's fine that it's not for me. I have no problem with
this
games
is your IP.
It's not for me. Yes, this is one of my favorite old school gaming intellectual properties, and they are skin suiting it for reasons that don't make sense to me. It's not valuable out in the world. Nobody even recognizes that it's an old IP that I'm talking to.
Some people do. I think there is value in the lore and world building. For example, Scarrow, who I did a show with yesterday, he is too young to have played Marathon. He didn't go back and play it like I did. But he read all the lore, and now he's going to play the old Marathon games. And so there you go. He's into this extraction shooter so much, it's exposing an audience that would normally have played that game to an older franchise. So I don't have a problem with them using it. They weren't using it for anything else, Hogue. I know it. They're not going to make a new Marathon trilogy in the same vein as what the old Marathon games were. And so I think it's fine. I think...
Now, wait a minute. That's self-defeating. They weren't doing anything with it, and they were never going to make anything you wanted, Hogue.
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't. Sorry, you're not exactly the core audience for Bungie games. You haven't been for the past 25 years.
I was saying it's funny because I think I helped build Bungie as being the core audience originally. Sure. So it's just odd to me that they are using this particular brand, because in the trailer, everything that you've described doesn't reference anything Marathon to me. They might include random stuff in their quote-unquote seasonal storytelling, but that phrase alone, even when uttered by Clive from Final Fantasy, says, nope, Rick, this is definitely not for you. Turn away. Turn away.
Not for you. It is without question not for you. Like, I'm telling you right now, don't play this game.
I like Bungie's gameplay.
I
love the way their games feel.
You don't belong in here with these gladiators, Hogue. Get out. Get out while the getting's good, all right? I'm sorry that they didn't make a game that you like. Times have changed. Their audience has shifted. I think they're making a game for a very different audience from Destiny, but people who appreciate Bungie's gunplay and PvP and miss that.
Dude, I'm a Halo fanatic. Destiny wasn't my game.
Well,
I mean, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
But they didn't call Destiny Halo 5. They didn't have the rights to it. But they didn't try to use the older
it is 30 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
30 years later.
30 years later. I think that if they want to use their own IP to do a new idea and try to build into this emerging genre and do their own take on it, like, good for them. I think they have a really good chance of succeeding. I'm worried about the onboarding experience. I'm worried about longevity and can they keep up with the live service model, because they've shown in the past some difficulty with content delivery, pacing, and there's a bunch of questions. Look, I don't know if this game will be good.
Yeah, no,
I put this in the same. Oh, sorry. I know this game's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be successful. I put it in the same world of Concord in terms of, like, look, you play the game, you see that it's competently made. Nothing wrong with that. That doesn't mean it's going to be successful. They have a $40 price tag. That's a huge barrier of entry that I don't know if they're going to be able to overcome when their competitors, Apex, are free, right? Not the same genre, but it does appeal, I think, to a lot of the same audience, that PvP focused squad. And so I see that as a problem. I see onboarding as a problem. Longevity is a problem. I see the you just get destroyed and you lose all of the loot you spent the past 15 hours getting in one match and just logging off forever and never coming back. That's a big problem. They also have seasonal resets. They're doing the Diablo thing where every season your account gets wiped and you start from scratch. I see resistance to that online because people really don't like the idea of making progress and then just getting reset back at the start line. And that's the model they're going with. So there's a bunch of questions of, like, can they figure this out? Is there an audience for this? Can they sell it to as many people as they need to be successful? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, but I can tell you this. I played the game for 2 days. I put a lot of time into it. It's a super fun game. It's very addictive. The gunplay is really awesome. I think they have the makings of something that could be successful. But even if it's not successful, I already know based on what I played, it's probably going to be pretty good. So that's where I'm at.
I have.
Yeah, let me just take a step back here, because I do think sometimes our interactions, Travis, wind up sounding a little bit more combative than I intend, or maybe even you intend. It depends. You like combat.
I do like combat.
I do want to sit back.
Personally.
I do want to sit back here and say one thing. I do think that the commentary on this game overall is more negative than I'm comfortable being about it right this second. I think it's easy to hate on new and novel things. I think we saw that last year with Concord. I think we're seeing it right now with Marathon. And this one might blow up in a ball of fire like Concord did. I don't know. I'd rather root for it to succeed. I do have my concerns about things like the use of the Marathon intellectual property, but I am discounting those concerns because I now just assume that they won't add anything to my understanding of Marathon or my love of that older game series, so that's fine. I find it to be a waste of an intellectual property, but Travis tells me I was never going to get anything I wanted out of it, so that's okay. I would like to see it succeed. I think in this market, in this economy, to sound like a real old person shouting at clouds, this is a tremendously difficult thing to sell into this market. I didn't see anything in those trailers or videos that suggest to me like it will be a winning recipe. I would argue that the closest thing is the Bungie gunplay, which always feels great. I would argue that the Bungie gunplay was in effect in Concord. So the association with Concord and it blowing up with a ball of fire, I think, is justified. Now, Concord was an arena shooter, and maybe those are out of vogue, and maybe people aren't as interested in that right now as they are in extraction shooters.
I would say they definitely are out of vogue, for sure.
That might be, and that might mean that Marathon has a longer runway. But I don't know that it's a great runway. I wouldn't bet my house on its success in the future. I think Bungie is perhaps not best realizing the use of its resources and its ability to put great gunplay in games. If I were the businessman here, I probably wouldn't have approved this game. I would not have greenlit this particular project.
Somebody cap that, because if this game blows up, that's going to be hilarious. Yeah.
Cap it. Yeah, absolutely. I probably wouldn't have greenlit Fortnite. So there you go. But
there you go. Yeah, exactly. I think Hogue, it's high risk, high reward, obviously, because it could go up in a ball of fire, but I have no reason to believe it will. And I don't think it's actually a bad use of their resources, because they're playing into a genre they've kind of avoided in the past, despite the potential there being enormous, right? They're not just making an arena shooter. They're chasing trends, and they're trying to be the first to market with like a big budget extraction shooter, right? Which is kind of a big deal, right? And then they're also doing the Bungie things that they do, like putting secrets and stuff that you can activate in the levels. And there's going to be a huge community that's like, okay, cool, PvP game. I probably would have fallen off of this pretty quick though. But it turns out there's a secret room you can get into if you find 3 keys on the map and bring them here. And there's going to be stuff like that in the game that I don't think they've talked about, but there's going to be stuff like that I think the community is going to be really surprised by. And that's like the Bungie magic, right? Is like hiding stuff, and you find out the game's actually deeper than you thought it was, that sort of stuff. So I think it's got some potential.
Well, frankly, I think Marathon is still a bad mix for that. I think science fiction and the way that Bungie makes science fiction is already a step removed from what is the most popular out there. I think they probably would have been more successful making something that was more akin to a Tarkov, rather than going in this not quite Destiny, but still hardcore sci-fi looking thing. I really like that it is a wildly different art style from other things that I have seen. With that said, to be nuanced here, I don't like the actual art style. I don't like how this game looks. But I do like that it's different. So I think, again, if I'm greenlighting, if I'm Mr. Bank, if I'm the guy in charge of business, as you said earlier, Travis, I'm looking at this and saying,
Monopoly
okay,
on business.
you can make an extraction shooter, guys, but do you want to make one that simultaneously evokes Destiny and won't necessarily make Destiny players happy, and also probably isolates from the mainstream mass audience that's playing Call of Duty or Tarkov or anything in between? So I think they've made a lot of choices here that maybe felt comfortable to them. I don't have a lot of faith in this product succeeding in the marketplace as it stands, but I'm just a guy.
Yep, that's fine. And I think it's a big risk, but I also see the potential. I see what they're trying to do. If they can capture that audience of people that are playing Escape from Tarkov and Battle Royales, and they're moving over and checking out this new game, I mean, once you play it, that's the thing. I don't think the demo yesterday was particularly good. The presentation, it was like a lot of talking. It was very little gameplay. But
I have to be honest, I fell asleep.
They're gonna have an alpha, and I think when people play the alpha, that's gonna change it for them, because in this case, touching and playing is really believing on this one, and I think that's why they're giving it, putting it into players' hands so much earlier than they really need to, 5 months before the game comes out, and there presumably will be some sort of open
That's what
beta.
they did with Destiny, right? They had an alpha.
I think they have to get players to play this game, because I do not think it demos well. I think when you see people shooting AI robots, you go, okay, and everything looks really minimalist, which if you're not familiar with the style they're going for, looks like they half built the level. It's way more deep than that, but like it looks very clean and like
it's garish,
smooth textured. It's very odd, yeah. But when you play it and you go into one of those buildings and then you start to go beneath it and you see what's going on down there, you're like, okay, this is not like it. On the surface, it looks like one thing, and it's very deep once you actually play it. And I would say the same is true of seeing the game versus playing the game, just in general. Like on the surface, you're like, oh, it's another shooter.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump in finally here. Can we get back to playing the game for a second?
Sure.
Because we have a ton of questions that I've been wanting to ask.
All the questions, and I'll rapid fire answer them.
All right, because there's a lot more I want to talk about with the gameplay. Sure. Question from Joe: once you kill an opponent, are they gone forever, or is there a reboot system? Like, are they gone from that match?
So there's two things. One, when you down somebody, they get downed and they can crawl around. They don't have a last stand.
Down but not out.
You cannot fire a gun, but you can crawl away. You can hide. Other teammates can res you, or if you have a specific item called a self-res, you can get yourself up.
Yeah.
Those items are on the rare side. I think people will probably stockpile them and have a bunch, but like, at one point I had 2 on me, and I felt like, oh man, I'm rich now. I've got 2 self-reses. And then each of my teammates also had one. So we had like 4 total in our group. If you get completely killed while you're downed, you are then turned into a backpack, and you can be looted and all that stuff.
Just like real life.
And just like real life. Honestly, I hope that's how I go. What level loot do you guys think you'd have when you die? What type of
I'm all legendaries, baby.
Yeah, I think I would give off a legendary necktie of some kind. But,
nah, dude.
Anyway,
I only carry my grays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Imagine if you died and you found out you were just like a trash loot mob. That would suck. It's like, 10 gold. What? No.
So you can't get back into that same match though.
You can. So if you die and you get turned into a backpack, as long as at least one person on your team is alive, they can make it back to your body and they can fully revive you. And so there were times where both of my teammates were completely dead. So
while you're sitting there as a backpack, they go over to the backpack and they can revive you. And I'm sure that takes an amount of time that you have to be risky.
And it makes noise.
Can you pick up the backpack and move it to revive, or you have to do it right there? Okay.
You have to do it right there. And so usually what that meant is, like, when I was playing as a Void, 2 of my teammates got downed by sniper fire. It was just like a sweaty group that was across the map, like looking for people to kill. And as soon as they downed me or downed the team, I jumped off the building. I was playing as a character that has an ability to shadow dive, or to immediately dive to the bottom without taking any fall damage, and then creates a puff of smoke, and they turn invisible when they're in smoke. So I just ran away. And then I waited a couple minutes. I waited for them to loot, and I was running around getting an angle. And then when they went to go loot the backpacks, I killed all 3 of their people, went in, executed them, and then I rezzed both of my guys and got them back in the match. So you can do stuff like that. So this is where
team wiping becomes important.
If you team wipe, if all 3 of you are down without self-reses or fully turned into backpack, you then can choose to spectate the match or just leave. Those are your options.
Turned into backpack has to be our new phrase for things.
Yeah, dude.
I just love this. I love this comment because this is like, if this got really popular, if this was Fortnite levels popular, this is the kind of thing you'd see. Absolutely.
Okay, that's helpful because finals, which I play a lot, like team wiping is really, really important. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because the other thing you're talking about then is, I love that you can solo queue in this game. So you can play like a sneaky solo player and just go screw with people, which is awesome. But if you get killed, you're not down but not out. You're gone. Like,
if you get fully killed, you are just done. And people do. I mean, there's so many strategies to this game. Like, you can post up underground and put like claymore mines in places, and claymore mines are devastating, like, to your team. And so, like, there's a bunch of stuff like that you can do. It's the interplay there is very fun. The other thing about player count, they never ever tell you how many players are still in the game. There's no way to find out. There's no way to find out how many people dropped in. There's no way to find out how many people are left. And this is an intentional part of the game design, because even in matches where we had taken out 5 teams and we were pretty sure we were the only ones left, we weren't sure all the way. And so when you go to your extraction zone, you're constantly on high alert.
Even so it's not refilling with new players.
No. Okay. If you drop in and there's 18 people and you take out 5 teams, you do the math in your head and you're like, all right, we killed 15 people. There should be no one left.
We can take our time and do the whole map.
But you're still not sure. You're still not 100% sure, because it could have been one of those things where there was one team of 2. And so maybe there's a team of 1 out there. Maybe there's somebody running around. And so the intention is they never want you to be extracting and just like goofing off because you know that there's nobody left in the match. You never know for sure.
Is there a timer on the match?
There is. Matches are 25 minutes. In that time, you are trying to get to your dedicated extraction zone, preferably after you've completed your profit opportunity or done something else on the map. Or you can go to somebody else's extraction zone. If they have activated it, you can kill them and leave in their extraction zone. As long as you're standing in the circle, you get taken. Or there's also something called, I think they're called like guarded or enforced extraction zones. These are an extra extraction zone that exists on each map that anybody can use, but they spawn enemies, AI controlled enemies that you have to kill first before you can use it. So that's like an extra exit option in case somebody's camping out on your extraction zone or whatever, because you have a dedicated one on the map. Or if you miss all opportunities and 25 minutes elapse, then they add an extra 5 minutes to the timer, and there's a single extraction point that anybody who's left on the map has to go to.
Chaos.
And that's the chaos. Usually, I would say we used the final extraction like half the time, and usually when we used it, we were pretty confident we were the only group left, and so we were just going there to be cocky and take the extra time to grab additional loot and fight ads and explore and stuff. And so usually that happens, but there were definitely times where we just missed our window and we're like, dude, we have to go to the final extraction zone and we're pretty sure there's going to be a team there. And then that leads to like this final encounter. And that's the fun stuff. So
to Hoag's point, well, let me make sure I get all these questions here. Scott B asked basically, you don't have a team or aren't good at PvP, it isn't for you. And Luke was asking me this too. Luke is a more casual kind of shooter player or multiplayer game player. So from the conversation you had and Hoag's commentary too, it definitely looks and sounds like this is going to be a game for the more competitive type player. Like it's just the mechanics, the gunplay, the way it's set up, the team structure, the die in, down but not out. Like it all sounds like it's summing up to be a more competitive game.
I think if you are at the level of competitiveness where you can hang in battle royales, you probably are going to be okay in this game, especially if you have at least one teammate who knows what they're doing or is willing to clutch it up, right? Like if you go down, but you have a teammate that's well protected, or you're doing some sort of support role, you can play like one of the healing characters, which wasn't in it's not in the alpha, but it's one of the 6 characters that's going to be available at the beginning. There are ways for you to be useful, but generally speaking, if you don't like PvP games, or you consider yourself a low skill player, or you don't have friends to play with, playing without a mic,
you're gonna have to communicate.
Do not do it. You need to communicate with the mic. And going in solo queue when you're not the type of person who is doing that intentionally because they're trying to flex, not advised. And so I think there are a lot of cases where I just don't recommend playing this game if you're just in this is made for a specific audience. But if you're battle royale, Fortnite level or above, give it a try at least.
Yeah, gotcha.
It is their sweatiest game. It is a PvP game where people can down you in a couple seconds. They can even one-shot you if they've got a sniper on you, and you lose your loot permanently when you die. I don't know how I can tell you, like that's the most hardcore thing I can think of, short of deleting your character and your account when you die. That's basically what you're looking at. And so if that does not sound fun to you, skip this game. I don't think this game's for a lot of Destiny players. I think they're going for a different audience largely. I think they're going for maybe lapsed Trials players.
Again, the strange thing to me, Travis, is that it definitely doesn't sound like it's for me, but the most likely people to even recognize the Marathon brand are probably in their 40s, probably not Twitch skilled to fight off teenagers that want to obliterate them. And yet I'm the one you're saying, oh yeah, it's definitely not for you.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean,
I
don't think Bungie has a legacy with Marathon, and they're allowed to bring it to new people who maybe don't know
I'm
the old
not
games.
saying they should be banned from bringing it. I'm saying it's an interesting idea.
I think the idea of bringing in an old IP to a new audience that's not familiar with it and maybe making that audience curious about the old games, I think that's a totally fine strategy. But I don't think really any game Bungie could make is for the audience that's in their 40s, except for another Halo, which they aren't making those anymore. That's a different
fine.
company.
I just might recommend not using your IP from the people that are in their 40s.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad of a move.
It's funny because I see Hoag's point, right? It's annoying if you're a fan of that old IP, but I think in terms of what we're talking about here with the game sales and mass market, it doesn't matter.
Well, I think on the margins, it's designed to get people like me who don't watch or participate in the Bitcast to make an impulse buy of a game that's not going to satisfy them.
I actually think it's the opposite. I think it's to get people who've never heard of the Marathon franchise interested in it, and then maybe you play this and then you go, huh, well, this is interesting. There's
and then it
other
immediately
games.
disappoints you because it's a hard sci-fi novel in first-person shooter form.
Yeah, but the person I was talking to yesterday is a Destiny player who's now going to play a bunch of Marathon, and he heard about it and he was like, well, I'm going to go and play the old Marathon games, and now he's like, this is cool. So you'd be surprised, Hogue. People like old games. I love old games that feel a little antiquated. You kind of get to step back in time and try something that's different. And also, just because you like Twitch shooters doesn't mean you can't also like novels as a video game. Like I like dating sims and Marathon and cozy games. Like I
we know about
novels.
Your cozy games.
I like physical.
I
like Ace Attorney is like one of my favorite games of all time, and like that people are allowed to like more than one thing.
So, a couple other questions before we kind of move on again. If you die, you get backpacked. What are we going to call that? TIBs? You got TIB'd?
Sure.
You got tibbed?
Yeah. Turned into
so you get tibbed, right? And then look at him.
He's trying so hard to not laugh at tibbing.
You get tibbed and then you get revived. Teammate saved you, whatever. Do you have everything you had?
You had everything you had unless somebody took it from you while you were a backpack.
Okay, unless they took whatever. Okay, fine. Unless you were tibbed.
Another thing that's interesting is if you had an item and you died and they weren't able to res you, but they were able to take that item from your backpack and then they ran away and extracted on their own, that item, when they get pulled in, will go back into your inventory. So you can save other people's items even if you can't save them, which is cool. And because your loot is attached to you and it's always yours. So if I have a golden gun that I really like, but I don't need it, I can go into a match with you, Ains. I can drop it on the floor. You can use it for the whole match and extract with it, and then when you extract, it'll go back into my inventory.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That makes more sense. You better let me do the shooting, man. Yeah, it makes
exactly. Yeah, here you go. Here's the good weapon, and then as long as you get out with it, I get to keep it. Right. So
that's risky though. Like
it's risky
because you can with your friends, you can be like, "Why'd you die?"
What I was doing is like, one of our teammates, I accidentally extracted by myself. I was in somebody else's extraction zone killing them, and I didn't notice that the timer was at 0, and it pulled me out. My teammates were in the match by themselves because I got yanked out into somebody else's extraction zone. Very funny. But then they lost their loot, and so I had some extra guns in my inventory, so I brought 2 blue guns into the battle, and I just dropped them right away, and then we went through. They found better guns throughout the game, and then when we extracted, I got them back. And so it's kind of a way to like lean on.
Can you give friends loot outside of the game itself, like in the menus? No, just drop it.
You have to drop it every match and give it to them, and then it's still yours. And so there's no way to transfer or trade, but there's a way to kind of like lean on each other when necessary, which is super cool.
Yeah. Eric asked, did Travis say that different maps have different levels of difficulty? I don't know if he inferred that.
I don't know. I think so. I think Perimeter feels a lot more simple and straightforward than Dire Marsh. I only played 2 of the maps, but the 4th map that they're alluding to, I think, is going to be pretty sweaty. I don't think enemies like get stronger or whatever because there's no leveling system, and so it's not like you're going to die more. But I think they probably appear in larger numbers. The maps are I think the answer is effectively yes, but it's not in the same way you're thinking. It's not like, oh, they're level 5 and then they're level 10 at this. It's not like that. It's more just like the way that the map is designed, it's designed for ease. It's designed for it being smaller and more traversal versus it being wide open and having tons of like room for snipers and
Yeah.
hard to kind of approach
Okay.
that sort of stuff.
Shout out to DE becoming a new member at SG2. Appreciate you, D. Seems one of the few, people in the chat who's very excited here. So it's an interesting. I've been reading all the chat comments on both channels, and there's like Joe and Eric, myself. I'm absurdly pumped for this game. I wasn't going into this week. Like I didn't really like what I saw previously. We had heard some rumblings about it not really going well. They say extraction shooter. I've played a lot of Division, so I've played a lot of Dark Zone. My son plays Tarkov all the time, funny enough.
Nice.
So it didn't really interest me. But seeing what they've built here, now I'm hugely interested in it. I see others, and I
this
think
is an Ains game for sure. Like you're gonna,
and I see others like not interested at all, which obviously perfectly fine. The one thing I'm having trouble though is people saying this is niche, and I think we're underestimating the audience of games like PUBG, Tarkov. Like you may not understand how big those games are. Those games are gigantic.
I think people who don't play competitive like battle royale extraction shooter games are constantly underestimating their popularity because they are the biggest games
unbelievable.
On the planet
They're
now.
some of the biggest games in the year. Like PUBG makes billions of dollars a year. Billions. Like
and it's not
mobile.
even the most popular battle royale.
No, I mean that's before you get to Fortnite or Apex or any of these. So like to your other point, the main extraction shooter as a core foundation is Tarkov. Tarkov is hardcore. It's buggy, and it's only on PC.
And it looks bad.
It
looks bad. I mean, it's got all the faults of old school PUBG.
It's PUBG. It is literally the PUBG of the extraction genre. So
my son literally he plays it all the time and complains about it all the time. But that's a competitive thing anyway. But I think if they can nail the feel of a Bungie game, which it sounds like they have, and they can nail. They can nail all of these aspects that you've talked about. I can see this game being very successful. That said, I definitely think Hoag's points are valid, as are some of yours. The ones you guys were talking about of like, okay, it's not free to play, it's paid, which I like personally, but from a marketplace perspective, that makes it more challenging.
It's a challenge,
and the onboarding perspective is tough, right? It feels like you may have people that are going to buy this game get excited because they're already advertising it's from the creators of Halo and Destiny. They're playing into that, right? So you've got that huge audience. They may buy this game, may not be anything of what they're expecting, or they may get wrecked a few times and be like, "What the hell is this?" and just drop it. So I think this is going to be a really interesting one to watch unfold. All of that said, I am absurdly excited for this now. This has jumped up on my list of most anticipated games a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I also think the art is very divisive.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I went into this week not feeling great about Bungie's future, being worried about Marathon maybe not turning out as well as I thought it was going, as well as they needed it to kind of continue to exist as a company. But honestly, playing it has made me a lot more optimistic. Again, I'm still not sure if it's going to be a successful game, but I at least can take comfort in like, well, it seems like it's going to be a good one because everything I've played, it's headed in that direction.
I mean, I hope so. This is all their top talent, right? Like this is a lot of money and investment in time.
Their team is so talented. And you talk to those guys, you're just like, yeah, you guys get it. Like, what's up. I think they're making some errors in terms of like how hardcore they think people are going to be, the audience, the first 2 to 3 hours and the idea of everybody being hardcore. Like, again, I don't know if it's going to be successful just based on some of the statements that they've made in terms of just how sweaty their game is and the messaging there. But if you're a PvP guy, it feels great.
I'm really already thinking of strategies in my head of like I can see myself just solo queuing because again, I think one of the things that gets lost in the you lose everything is the opposite. So it's like in Souls games where people are like, oh, I die all the time. It's like you got to think about it opposite. Dying doesn't matter. So like if I go to solo queue in this game and I have nothing, right? I pick a class, I go and I solo queue. Even if I get wiped 5 minutes in by a team, it doesn't matter, right? I can go right back in and try and kill someone else and have fun doing it.
There's definitely going to be runs where people go in with nothing but a knife just to see how far they can get, right? Because you can just put all your loot in your vault. The other thing that they do is they do something called sponsored packages. These are basically like pity loadouts. If you just get completely destroyed, a faction will give you a sponsored package, which gives you the worst loot you've ever seen, but it at least gives you like guns and ammo and a healing kit and like some stuff to go in with so that you're not just completely bare naked in the middle of the battlefield. And so they do stuff like that. And so you can just put your best loot away and go, I don't really know this map well. I don't know this team I'm playing with well, or I just want to mess around and go in by myself. So I'm just going to take a sponsored package with me and I'm going to keep my good loot in the vault. Totally an option to do that. And then sometimes you have huge come ups. Like I went in with no expectations with like a green loadout, like pretty early on. We got lucky. We found some purple items in the PvE encounter. And then near the end of the match, we fought 2 other teams. We third-partied them and took them out. And we ended up finding really good weapons. And we walked out there like kings. And we were just like, dude, this was just a random match. We brought like almost nothing with us. And we turned the tables. And that feels so good once you extract and you're just like, yeah, like we got out of there. We got all this loot. And then it gives you your XP and you're completing all these missions. And you're just like, yes. Awesome.
Nice. Damn it, there was one other question I was going to ask and I can't remember what it was now.
Well, you got a whole bunch of them in the
cosmetics.
Yeah,
cosmetics. So do you loot cosmetics or do you unlock them? Like, how's that work? Can
cosmetics
you
are
there
in the
cosmetics
game. Yeah,
okay,
cosmetics.
There you go. That's easy.
Cosmetics are not in the game right now. They will undoubtedly be added at some point, but when I asked them about their ongoing monetization model, they were like, we don't really know. They could have been lying to me, or they could have just simply not be the money people. But they do have a couple core principles that are like lines they're not going to cross. One is it's a core part of the game design that you have to be able to tell which character you're fighting against. And so you have to be able to tell from like a sniper scope if that is a glitch versus a void versus a locus. And so I don't think they're going to be changing the character design so much that you're like, wait, what character is that? Because it's really important to know which one it is. If you look at the short film that they showcased yesterday at the end of the stream, there's a part where you see Glitch sitting down in front of the computer screen and she's got a couple different outfits on every time she sits down. I think my impression is that the cosmetics are going to be like that, but for PvP important reasons, they're staying away from bright colors and flaming skulls and shiny, kind of auras around you and stuff like that, because they would just put you to disadvantage. And I think they're, at least for now, pretty committed to, if they add anything to the game, it's going to look like it's in universe and make sense and not alter the character's appearance too much, mostly change like their clothing and their maybe their color scheme, but not like fundamentally shift what they look like or whatever.
Meta progression is going to be hugely important in this game.
The meta progression was one of the things I was most happy with. Apparently it wasn't in the game in October, and they added it based on player feedback, which is crazy to me that wasn't just like already in the game. But the meta progression feels excuse me. The meta progression feels really good. So it's just nice to be able to be like, oh well, we didn't extract, that's too bad, but I got some materials.
Well, what you said about the like opening 3 chests, even if you die, like, and you can complete missions without extracting, that's a good layer, I think, that can
it also gives you things to do on the map. So you're like, oh, you know what? There's a perk I want to unlock with this faction, but it requires 5 of these materials. And I looked at the item because you can inspect it in the menu, and it says those items appear in this part of perimeter. So let's go to the perimeter map and let's try to get to that area and loot 5 of those so I can unlock this perk. And so you have like a meta objective beyond just let's find loot and extract. You're like, oh no, I want to go to the medical facility and I want to find 5 biochips or whatever. And you're like, okay, let's go there and let's hunt for 5 biochips. And you start to understand like where those items appear. And yeah, it just gives you something else to do. Like every time you enter a match, you have sort of a ulterior motive. You have like some sub objectives that you're trying to accomplish, and you can communicate that with your friends and they can kind of help you like, oh yeah, you should go here and we'll find a thing.
Individual missions, or are there team missions too?
I think it's all individual. I don't think we had any missions that were team, but a lot of times we were on the same mission because we started playing at the same time. And so it'd be like, oh guys, everybody make sure we go here and do this thing so we can all complete it together and we can kind of stay on the same step of progress.
That's certainly something that could evolve. That's the Fortnite idea. I've spoken about why Fortnite works for me, and it's not really victory royale as much as it's you put 600 missions around the map and it's fun to just jump in and do things.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see how their meta progression works and how they deal with the seasonal resets and keeping players invested. And I have questions about how they're going to do that. And Bungie hasn't always been the best at doing its progression systems and making that feel rewarding. But the core mechanic of dropping to a world, fighting AI enemies, fighting other players, trying to extract, discovering stuff on the map, and like you can find a secret boss fight. You can find these incursion zones, which are like areas where you activate some sort of device and a whole bunch of enemies drop on you, and you just like fight the PvE encounters for a while. It also draws a ton of attention to yourself because the loot from an incursion event is really good, and you can see it from across the map. And so stuff like that, where you're kind of
I think that's what like Destiny's gunplay was always awesome. I love the kind of concept of the worlds and everything, but like just the progression, the loot, that stuff, it never drew me in on Destiny. Whereas this combining it feels like, or looks like, I should say, not feels like, based on what you're describing, it kind of takes that gunplay and those kind of aspects I like about it, but puts it in a very competitive kind of scenario, which is up my alley, right? It won't be for other people, but it is up mine. So
somebody's asking about ammo economy.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Is there unlimited ammo, or are you picking up bullets? Please say
you're picking up bullets. Ammo's actually kind of scarce. So I hate that. No, it's actually kind of important because, for example, if you find a sniper rifle is OP as hell unless you are, and also it prevents camping, right? You can't just stay on one part of the map.
That's
unlimited fair. Snipe people. And so the ammo for snipers is called MIPS. They are a pretty rare ammo that you get from other people that are other AI sniper enemies, or you can find them out in the world pretty rarely. They're kind of a rarer ammo, or you can get them from other players. When you loot an enemy, all the boxes populate. Whatever ammo they were carrying is one of those boxes that loads based on your loot speed. And then there's like 5 or 6 different ammo types, and depending on the weapon you're using, you have to worry about it. Now, there are some weapons where you effectively never have to worry about ammo. Like if you're using an SMG that uses like the standard small fire rounds, you can just grab stacks of those and the ammo's everywhere and it's pretty easy to get it. But if you're using specific weapon types that have a specific effect, the ammo's a little rarer. You can offset this by buying a bunch of ammo at the black market and just stuffing it in your backpack and making sure you brought enough with you. And so that's the option you can take. If you have a sniper rifle in your standard loadout, you can just go around the maps collecting MIPS or buying them using your credits, and then put a bunch in your backpack. So there's ways around.
That's my plan. I'm going to be collecting MIPS and creating a whole lot of TIBs.
Oh, I was so addicted to MIPS. Anytime somebody found one, they would be like, "Travis, MIPS over here," and I'd be like, "Oh!" and I would like run over and grab them. Like I was just like, I wanted to have those rounds because they're so.
You reminded me, the menu system in Tarkov is a convoluted mess. Because there's so many different items, the backpacks, the sizing gets big. So watching this creator thing, there's some menus. The UI is very all over, which is okay, right? That's easy on a mouse and keyboard. Controller concerns me.
I played it on controller.
How fluid is, because you're bouncing between like 50 boxes. How fluid is that?
I played it on controller and it wasn't. I'd never really had a problem with it. So it doesn't make you do the Resident Evil carrying case thing. Like if you grab a gun and you have 8 like squares, which is enough to carry a weapon, somewhere in your inventory, it will reorganize it automatically to make sure that that weapon fits in there. You never have to worry about like the Jenga-ing of your inventory. It is a little overwhelming at the beginning of the game when you're finding like mods and enhancements and like cybernetic implants and stuff like that, and you're like, okay, what is all this? What does it do? You kind of have to take a moment. Usually what I would do is I would wait until after the match, and then I would go into my backpack or vault and I'd be like, all right, what are all these things I'm finding? Like what does this do? What does that do? But you kind of understand immediately after maybe an hour with the game what type of loot you're dealing with, because if you pick up a consumable, it'll be labeled consumable and you get it. It's like, okay, this like this restores my shield. Got it. You'll find plenty of items that are just materials. And anytime you are looking at material, you know, this is going to have no gameplay effect, but it might help me upgrade with a faction or unlock a specific perk if it's a specific part that I need, or it might help me craft something back at base. And so anytime you find a material, that's sort of like, do I have extra room in my backpack to like gain meta progression when I get
Are they color coded?
They're color coded based on the rarity. They also have different sizes. So a bigger item will take more squares in your backpack. So if you have like 240 squares, that's lots of consumable items, or it is like 4 weapons, and then suddenly you're running low because they each take like 8 to 10 depending on the size of the weapon. And so yeah, the menu, it wasn't not really a problem. Like the actual stats that you're looking at are a little confusing, but when you're in a backpack, you basically know the stuff you want to go for after a while, and you're like, all right, grab that. Yeah. And honestly, I mean,
PUBG and stuff's the same way. It's like you got to get familiar, and then you're fine with it.
I didn't feel like I was at a disadvantage from people using mouse and keyboard either. Like I was playing against people on mouse and keyboard and winning the vast majority of my matches. And both of the people, the Polygon guy was using mouse and keyboard, but the other guy who was a developer who was very good at the game, he was also on gamepad.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Well, we've talked about Marathon a lot today. That was the plan, of course, but appreciate all the context and the detail and answering the questions. Chat, thanks for all the questions.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll be talking a lot more about this.
Yeah, ask me on Blue Sky or Twitter. I'll respond to your guys' tweets.
Or comment on the show, even post live here, or we'll get them answered. But obviously, we'll be talking a lot more about this post alpha as well when a bunch more of us have played it. So
yeah, I'm very interested to see what you think. It'll be fun.
So I think that sounds like the 3 of us are going to stream this live, and
hell yeah,
Hoag's on board.
It's just going to be me pouting about Marathon as a
He's over in a corner looking for lore.
I remember in Marathon 2, they would have never put up with this.
Scott B's asking dedicated servers. I have to assume it's servers.
Yes.
There's no way it could run.
Fully dedicated servers, both for security reasons and also for latency. All the problems you face in Destiny PvP where like you get shot after you've already gone around a corner, not a problem in this game. And if you, for whatever reason, face connection issues and you get disconnected, your character basically just like idles in the world until the match ends, and whatever happens to them. And if you get your situation together, restart your console and hop back in,
you can reconnect, and your character, you just take control of your character right where they were. And so if your friend disconnects, you can effectively just have your teammates guard you and wait for you to get back in the game, etc. Yeah. Or if you can't get back in the game, they can loot you and grab your you can grab your items for you so that it goes back to your account, So you can reach into someone else's pockets, or you have to down them and then you have to tib them.
You can't do friendly fire, but there's ways to get them killed, like the AI will kill them and stuff like that, and then you can just grab from their backpack and like make sure to extract with it.
There are ways, says Drake.
There are ways, he says.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, there's basically nowhere on the map that's like completely safe, so if they're idling in the world, you can let them get killed. Like
I gotcha. Okay. Well, appreciate all the info. I'm pumped. Obviously, this is Bungie's next big game. It's obviously a big game for PlayStation now that they own Bungie. I can only assume the marketing and the merch and collector's edition and everything you can probably imagine will be coming from this game by September. So a lot more to come for sure.
Yeah.
Hoag, you getting that CE day one?
I have my doubts about this project and the future of Bungie.
Yeah, all jokes aside, it really could go either way. This game could be an absolute bomb, which could take the core of Bungie down with it. Or it could be the next huge thing and be Bungie's next giant world. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, I don't know if this game is going to be successful. That's the big question mark here. But I do think it's going to be a really good game. And that is more than I was sure of before I played it myself, right? Like I'm sure it's going to be a great game. It's really just like, can it capture the audience? Is its delivery model going to be good? Are players just going to balk at it for some other reason that we can't even predict? Like, it's just hard to know like what people are going to do. But I can say this, at least I think people who play it and are looking for a good PvP game, I think they're going to love it. It's really good.
Yeah, man. Cool. All right. Well, excuse me. I know we've already been talking for a while here. So, Travis, I just wanted to touch on Switch 2. So you missed all that last week. I definitely recommend you listening to Hoag's setup
I can give you some timestamps if you want, because I was going to try to take clips, and I went too long last week.
I knew he had it pent up, so I kind of served it up for him and just let him go, and it was awesome.
I was so excited about this announcement. I was so excited about this product.
I gather via context clues that you're also on team not super stoked with Nintendo, Ains.
Funny enough, last week, the non-Nintendo guy, I was the one that was most like, oh, I'm in. And you know why? What really got me was because what you may have forgotten is the week prior when you were here, I said the one thing I'm hoping for is a big Donkey Kong game. What did I get? I got a big Donkey Kong game, and I'm very, very excited.
He looks very weird and like animalistic.
He looks goofy.
Yeah, I very much hate the art.
Hogue despises it, but
I think cartoon Donkey Kong is going to take some getting used to.
I think he's funny.
I think the art in that game looks bad. I think that's in part because they have all this destructible terrain. No, I think it is a displeasing aesthetic that they have achieved from this combination of garishness and cartooniness. But hey, I'm just a guy again, and clearly Travis, despite me having sat through 2 hours of marathon talk, has now been worn out by me and my 2-second reference to Bonanza.
Bonanzas. I did watch more, so I already said my piece on Bonanza. I'm pumped for it. So to your point, Travis, I am. I'm generally excited about the Switch 2 primarily because of Bonanza, which comes out a month later, right? It's not on day one. But I am excited about Mario Kart World, too. I don't know if either of you watched the Digital Foundry thing on Mario Kart World.
Yeah.
I got more excited after watching that. I especially like, again, this is me, I like that they have a competitive mode in Mario Kart World that I can just go on and play and race against other people. So
yeah, no, it looks great. Mario Kart World looks great. Yeah. That is a great title. It's the best thing they showed. And I have no issues even with the pricing of the system that's many people have complained about, although we don't know what that final price is just yet. So
because of tariffs?
I'm holding on. Well, we don't know. Nintendo, the reason I have a 10-minute rant on Nintendo, Travis, is not about any specific thing that they did with respect to pricing or the system components or anything else. It's because the messaging and corporate strength of leadership appears to be completely lacking at that company right now. And yes, setting a pre-order date, immediately removing it, not setting a new one, and leaving everybody in limbo is part of that story. So yes, I suspect they're evaluating whether to change the price. But I
kind of had to, right? Because there were unexpected changes to the way they were being taxed on their prices, right?
So one, Tariff Day was announced well in advance of when that announcement happened, so Nintendo had a full heads up that there were likely to be tariff changes. Yes, I understand that, but they didn't have to announce when a pre-order date was going to happen, and they did, and then they rescinded it within 2 days, and they didn't add a new date, and there's nothing likely to change in tariff land that will change their evaluation. So
didn't it already change? It changed since they made the announcement to delay. Now the tariffs are different.
Yes, the tariffs are different now. But it doesn't change the fact that tariffs are being imposed and being modified in the window in which they have to sell this product. So I'm asking Nintendo, and again, we talked at length about this last week, so I don't want to go over all of these materials simply because you were out there playing Marathon. But I would see them have a strength of leadership that seems completely absent right now. And part of that is pricing. Part of that is selling the pack-in game. Part of that is just a general lack of killer apps that exists for the Switch 2 launch, even though they really haven't launched any games that aren't remasters or remakes in about a year. So I think they have an extreme dereliction of duty for their investors and now their consumers in the Switch 2 launch. I think it was the easiest launch to get right, and they screwed it up. And so I don't love how Nintendo is operating as a company right now. I'm still very likely to love the Switch 2 in the long run. I'm very likely to play a number of their games. I love my Switch. I love Nintendo. But I think their leadership has big, big issues. And now I am very reluctant to think that they're going to be a strength moving forward.
So a couple points, and then I want to get one just to clear up from last week.
Sure.
Because last week when we were discussing at Hogue, as we were joking, there was so much misinformation, disinformation out there. So a couple things I learned this week. So Mario Kart World seems to be the only $80 game at launch. Doug Bowser commented on that, right? Basically saying that those prices will be fluid depending on their own reasoning for what the game prices should be.
Well, Doug Bowser said some bullshit, but yes, he did say that it was only going to be this one game as they evaluate value. There's some stuff that he said that doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of damage that he did out there. He's a terrible representative of the Nintendo brand.
He sounded, Don Matrick just kept popping in my head as he talked more, and I'm like,
guys, his name is Bowser.
Get this guy to shut up. Like, he's not helping you right now.
His name is Bowser.
But the $80 thing really is a part and parcel to the Nintendo thing, right? I'm talking about leadership. They were clearly scared to reference anything that they thought might offend anybody as part of their giant worldwide reveal of the system. And they let every random online, including Jeff Keighley, go out there and tell people what their pricing was going to be and what their system was going to be and what to look forward to in the future. They dropped the ball on this, and they deserve every bit of opprobrium that we can throw at them for that. And Doug Bowser is a part of that story because he's out there trying to put out fires with freaking gasoline.
The other thing we learned, and I learned, I don't think it matters to you guys, but it'll matter to the 4% of us, is there was a kind of concern around the Switch 2 version, because you have to do different versions of the games. Whether if you buy physical, the Switch 2 cartridge will actually have the Switch 2. There was a rumor basically saying that it has the Switch 1 version on it, and then you have to download the upgrade. That is actually not true. Nintendo did confirm that the full Switch 2 version is on the Switch 2 cartridges. Jesus Christ.
Filed under things they failed to communicate. Yes.
Agreed. Yes. So anyway, Travis, you now have seen this. You've seen the games. You've seen the price. You've seen everything. What are you thinking about the Switch 2? Just to get your thoughts here.
So I don't have as many problems with the actual content of the reveal. Like I would have liked to see more games. I think that's like the main obvious complaint. They only had like 2 real games, and they focused a lot on remaster. They talked about voice chat and video chat for a really long time, but again, these are new things to Nintendo. I'm sure
they invented really game chat, dude. It's really cool.
Yes,
seen it?
I know.
Yes, the back slapping on that, the C button is insane. But
yeah, I get why they did that though, because I feel like to a lot of their audience, Nintendo is a very different audience than people that play the consoles, and it is a novel kind of thing there, right? They're explaining it to like aunts and uncles that are playing on their Switches, right? Like, oh wow, this is crazy. I never knew this was possible. But my main complaints are really just about the stuff around the launch. Like I was very surprised at their willingness to give up the cost leader position in terms of how affordable their console was. They are charging us for everything. They're charging you for the tech demo to play the game.
Insanity.
The tech demo costs money. I mean, that's crazy. They were like a paid demo. I was like, what? A paid experience?
No, as soon as they said
the
paid.
fact that you have to pay to upgrade every single game you've ever bought on the Switch, and they don't really care about like any of the purchases.
It's not every game. This is part of their messaging issue, right? So they have Switch 2 editions. They have Switch 2 editions that they're going to charge you for, which is insanity as it stands.
No, that's what I mean. Like,
but then they have free updates. Then they have free updates to a whole bunch of games that are in a different list.
If you're a specific online member.
No. These are just games that are going to be on the Switch 2 that run better. Link's Awakening is just going to run better.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the versions that have specific upgrades all costing money was a surprise to me, because you'd think like, welcome to the platform, you get some sort of benefit. Really, the only cost thing that they yielded on was making game chat available for a limited time for free. And like everything else, like you're paying for the online, you're paying for the controllers are really expensive. The console is more expensive than I thought they'd go. The game's costing $80 or $90, or what was it? Was it 80, 90?
No, that's more the confusion. Yeah, that's more of the confusion. So $80 for Mario Kart World. All the other games, well, Donkey Kong, what we know is $70. There is no $90 game.
But we don't really have announcements of anything vis-a-vis.
Yeah. We don't know what their Metroid 4 could be a $80 game. So yeah, just the stuff around it. I see a lot of like Don Matrick like statements online, and them just like having weird messaging and not leaning into the obvious. Yeah, not leaning into the obvious wins, but like Mario Kart looks great. The Donkey Kong game looks great. Like I'll play those games.
Hey.
Game chat, sure. Having a video chat on Nintendo. I also really appreciated that in their demo they showed the garbled images exactly as they're going to be in real life.
I said that last week.
Hogue joked about that last week, and they I know why. Do you know why?
I actually appreciate that.
So
Yeah,
do
no,
I.
Okay, so to be clear, again, Travis, you weren't here. I said last week that I liked that they showed something that looked like a realistic stream of the videos.
I was like,
and I thought that was to their credit.
Yeah.
You know why? And I found this out this week, Code, because Digital Foundry covered it. When you play Mario Kart World with the 4-player with the camera, right? Those bottom 4 screens, like if you're looking at their views, you know how you can see their game running next to their picture? It runs at 8 frames per second. That is the technical solution. It runs at 8 FPS. That's why it looks like that.
That makes sense. You're showing it on screen. I don't expect it to be amazing.
But in an ad
Agreed,
video,
but I'm glad they showed it that way.
Yeah, in an ad video, they easily could have faked those screens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would have expected that to be the thing, and it's like all conceptual, but they showed it raw. And again, I don't have a lot of like complaints about the content of their presentation. It was more about the stuff around it of like, we're charging you for everything. You're getting no freebies. Everything's more expensive. And then all of the
Well, we're not going to tell you any of that in the video. We're not going to tell you the prices of anything. We're not going to tell you the price of the console. We have it all ready for press release after the video. They're clearly running scared of everything they think could run against them. And they made it so much worse. Yeah. They let everybody else report on their pricing for them with a whole bunch of wrong information. This is the leadership that scuttles your corporation. These are the CEOs that get freaking fired, if not arrested.
Arrested, huh?
Not for just missing on communications from the Switch, but these are the kind of leadership people that get in trouble for other reasons.
Okay. I don't think it's that bad, but yeah, it was a bit of a snafu, and I hope they do better. I hope they're getting the feedback that they need to turn it around, because they still got some time until launch, apparently. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to buy the Switch too. It goes without saying. I got to review games on it. It's probably going to be fun. I don't like to see them lean into remasters as much as they have. New SD card is annoying. I already bought like the 1 terabyte SD card, and now I got to buy the new 1 terabyte SD card. Actually, I think I already have micro SD, but whatever. Yeah.
But you're not super impressed by their 256 gigs being so much bigger than 8 gigs or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's great for Nintendo. I buy digital on Nintendo, and if you don't get at least a 1 terabyte SD card, you just have to constantly delete games and re-download them. And so, look, I'm going to play it. It's good.
You do what I do. You only play 3 games on your Switch. You don't have to worry about it.
There you go. Yeah. Or actually, I will give you this. Nintendo is the only console that's, at least the old Switch. I don't know if the new one, this is true, but the old Switch, there's actually a reason to buy physical media because you don't have to install them. All the other platforms, you have to install the game anyway. So as soon as
the one nice thing about the cartridge still.
The cartridge, you don't have to install the game.
Yeah.
Like, I was a physical guy up until they were like, you just have to install the game and then download all these updates. And then I was like, well, what's the point of the disc? And I was done with discs forever. But like on the Switch, there's actually a reason to own the cartridge. You can play it straight from the cartridge.
Well, and for whatever reason, not that a lot of people care about this, but Nintendo physical games, probably helped by the fact that the full game is on the cartridge and you can play it, they retain their value absurdly high. I don't know what it is. They just do. So those people with like big Switch collections, a ton of money sitting there. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens. As I'm correct, right? As of this moment, as we're talking, we still don't have a pre-order date in the US.
We don't, and we don't have a final pricing guide. We don't have anything for buying this thing.
I kind of, this is the part of your argument I don't get, Hogue, which is like, this seems like a pretty normal reaction to the vast amount of uncertainty and rapid change that's happening with tariffs. Like I also don't know that I would know what to do if I were Nintendo. Like, they had a plan clearly, and then tariffs messed that up, and then tariffs changed. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of get why they don't have a pre-order date. Like, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to price this when you don't know what you're going to be taxed on each unit? And once you finalize the price, then you're probably going to be locked into that for a while, unless you go through the bad PR of having to change your prices after or right near launch. So I kind of get their trepidation and the awkward position they're in. They're kind of just waiting for the dust to settle. So...
Sorry, I was typing a comment.
I don't have any response
so I guess we'll see.
My biggest issue with Nintendo on this was that they announced a pre-order date and then rescinded it a day later. But on this point right this second, they can have all the trepidation they want. It still projects weakness. I don't know exactly what they want me to buy. It still launches in the same date that they were already going to launch it. So it isn't an issue of manufacture or being ready to sell this system. They just can't set a price. This is something that is absolutely things that they have to be thought of very, very strongly in Nintendo headquarters. You have to think about these things carefully, but You have to make a decision. And right now, I'm not confident that Nintendo can make any business decision of any kind.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I just give them a little bit of slack on the tariff thing because that is like a crazy...
I don't. They're a freaking multinational corporation that sells regularly into other territories. This isn't the first tariff schedule they've ever seen.
Yeah, but it is the first one that they've, like, the tariffs were announced and then rescinded like 2 days after they announced, and then 2 days later after they announced the, like, it's just stuff happening really quickly.
If you want to talk about the administration having a weakness in leadership, I'm happy to have that conversation as well. But Nintendo doesn't have to follow the freaking Trump administration.
Well, they do, because they have to price it based off of what the administration sets their tariffs at, right?
In terms of strength of leadership. Make a freaking decision, Nintendo. I'm happy to buy your product. Just offer to sell it to me.
But doesn't their decision have to be based off of what the tariffs are, and that's been unclear? Like, that's my point, is like they're basically just responding to the change. Like, you have to, changing a price is hard. You have to like change the packaging. You have to change there's like a whole bunch of stuff you got to do through it. So like, why would they do that before they were sure what their tariff situation was going to be and then price it? Like, I just don't have a problem waiting like a couple extra weeks and then be like, all right, we had to redo some stuff, but here's the new price. I assume it's going to be a different price, right?
I think
it's very likely to be 500. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to be 500 before.
Sorry, I was going to say, Fresh Guy says this is a confluence of American political and economic chaos combined with Nintendo's poor communication. I think there's both happening here.
I will grant that. I will grant that it's all messed up. But Nintendo is failing in what is a crisis point for their company. This is the next product that is going to either feed them or destroy them. And they are not landing this plane right now.
Ains, if the final price ends up being $500, does Hogue win the bet?
I already won.
No,
because you tied. You
owe us both pizzas right now.
Yeah,
that's how we determined it.
But if Hogue wins, does that mean we have to buy him a pizza?
We decided this last week. I do not take responsibility for the utter madness that's occurring with this administration.
I don't know.
Nintendo set the price at $450.
All I'm saying is, if it's $500, if I buy the Switch and it's $500, I'm buying Hogue a pizza, and you're just on your own, dude.
Well, fine. I'll make my own pizza. I don't care.
Hogue, you're getting a pizza, buddy. Big job.
Well, Hogue's getting one either way because the price isn't going down.
Correct.
So,
correct.
Yeah.
Listen to my DMs. People trying to convince me that tariff trouble means that Nintendo is thinking about lowering their price. I'm like,
sure. Yeah, we'll get there.
No. They're thinking about raising it on you.
Yeah, that price is not going any lower than $450. No doubt.
Yeah, no, it is most likely going to go to $500, right?
I actually already ordered this
landing point.
Probably, yes. I already ordered my Switch 2 from England, just to have one in case. Who knows what happens?
You'll have to pay for the tariff if you ship it in, right? Like you.
Not at this moment. I've already been charged with shipping, so.
Yeah, no, he's not in the business of importing Nintendo Switches.
No, yeah, I'm not exactly. I'm buying a product from an overseas Amazon, basically.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but of course, there's other concerns there. I just did that as a backup plan because the other thing, if you missed it, you can sign up at Nintendo.com or North America, right, to be first to pre-order directly from them. In the fine print, it actually says that. It says something, I don't know the exact details, but to basically get first pre-order rights, you have to be a Nintendo Online member for 12 months and have 50 hours of played game time since in the last 12 months. There's a paragraph about it. And I'm like, well, I don't have either of those, so I'm probably not going to get offered the pre-order.
I wonder if I have Nintendo. 50 hours.
Yeah, that's the Nintendo Direct line. That one starts in May. That one they had announced at the same time as the Nintendo Direct. And they are going to evaluate essentially your value as a Nintendo customer in order to give you your pre-order.
Which is crazy when you think about it. Because imagine the person who has a Switch, buys all their games at, I'll just say GameStop or physical, we just talked about, right? And has like a collection of like 500 games. And because they are not your online customer, you're like, they're not really a big Nintendo customer. That's crazy.
They only have so many ways to evaluate your value to them.
I agree. Yeah,
I think it's better than nothing. I think it is a method of trying to fight scalping and give its actual customers.
Now that is a tagline for the Nintendo Switch. Better than nothing.
I'm excited about the Switch too. I wish that they had announced better games that I was more interested in. I think Mario Kart World looks great, but it's a kart game. It's not really the same kind of system seller as a Breath of the Wild. So
car games always move the technology and industry forward.
Well, we told Hogue last week, like Mario Kart 8 is far and away the best-selling game on Switch.
Yes, kart games sell a lot, just like racing games sell a lot. They don't traditionally move units. So I'm not expecting kart to be the same kind of impact as a year of Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and the wonderful launch year that was the Switch 1. This just looks a lot worse managed to me than the Switch 1 year did. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still going to get one if they ever deign to sell it to me. But I have a lot less faith in the future of Nintendo than I did before that Direct.
Tell you what, you keep downplaying Donkey Kong and you're getting tipped, my friend.
Look, I would love Donkey Kong to be awesome. I watched all of the Treehouse videos of it. It looks like a very disconnected, not great kind of system that is all hanging its hat on the hook of terrain destruction that just doesn't look that interesting to me.
Cool idea.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep, you're getting tipped. You're the first tib.
Yeah, you're gonna get tibbed, dude.
Yeah,
and I'm
gonna
loot you.
You're gonna the first tib on my helmet.
I'm gonna be over you like.
You know what you need, Ains? You know what you need, Ains? You need 3 photos that are just of a marathon backpack that can be put over each of our faces.
Yes, good call. We'll definitely do that.
Backpack form. Yeah, totally. What would you look like if you were a backpack?
Legendary. I would just look fantastic.
We're not getting Tide's AI to do his backpack.
The AI would give me muscles and a great face.
Yeah, like what do you do? You gonna be like a Jansport? Like what type of backpack?
I'd be an Eddie Bauer. I'd be an Eddie Bauer backpack from the mid-90s.
Nice. Ains, what kind of backpack would you be if you got tibbed?
Oh God, probably some budget tech guy backpack. Like a plain gray that's like squared. Yeah.
USB cord coming out of it. So you
probably.
It says the name of some conference that went bankrupt 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. With a small SG sticker on it. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Samsonite briefcase.
Sure. Not a backpack.
with the gold locks.
Yeah.
Travis always breaking the rules. Not a backpack.
Well, dude, it's the tie. I mean, I can't just choose a regular backpack. I got to be a briefcase, right? Yeah.
I know a lot of people in suits that regularly wear the 3-way backpack, the backpack that goes over your shoulder that just looks like has 3 sides. Well, I don't have one, so I don't know what to describe it as. I apologize.
I'll be honest.
It looks like a box, you mean? Is that what you're talking about?
It looks like a triangle, and it goes across the one side. Just the one shoulder.
What you're talking about. No.
That's interesting.
All right, I'm going to have to pull up a picture.
Find a picture,
I'm going to have to describe it better than that for Google.
Thing where you just kind of... Interesting.
He said both shoulders. That's why I was confused.
No, one shoulder.
Oh, one shoulder. I'm sorry, Hope. That's my fault. Yeah. By the way, Machine XP, shout out to one of our regular commenters and viewers here. $5 super chat says, sorry, Travis, I just started reading it, but because he says, I agree with Hogan, Travis. He said this while you two were debating about the Nintendo and Terra.
He agrees with both of us in our different positions.
Yes, correct. I like it too.
Very counterintuitive. I love it.
Machine XP, thank you, my friend. Good to see you. While you're finding that, the last thing I was going to mention, guys, and here we are, make Bitcast a 3-hour show. We've done it. The last thing I wanted to mention this week was the Xbox Showcase was announced for 2025. It is the Sunday we expected, right where Summer Game Fest is happening, June 8th. They are saying it's going to be very similar to last year. Big, long showcase of all their games, and then they're doing a separate, 30-minute segment on Outer Worlds 2, which didn't really expect them to do a separate, dedicated thing for Outer Worlds 2, but I'm here for it. We'll see what it's like. The only thing that's disappointing for me, if you didn't see, and I don't think this disappoints many people, but digital only this year. Xbox is not doing an on-site show in LA, which is basically that's it. Right outside of COVID, they were the last ones still doing, of the big 3, still doing an in-person show for at least press and media and stuff, and they are not doing it this year, which is crazy, which means, guys, Jeff Keighley, of all people, is the only person doing an actual in-person summer show in the year 2025.
And IGN.
Well, I mean, showcase-wise, IGN's run a little different, but yes,
we do. Because there's live, and we have announcements and stuff. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of video shows. I mean, there'll be a Day of the Devs around that time.
Yes, exactly.
There'll be that kind of thing.
But like live from the YouTube theater where press is and all that is that Friday, June 6th for Summer Game Fest. So
They seeded the ground. It's all Jeff all the time.
am I allowed to mention some of the commentary about Jeff Keighley's troubles playing Marathon at the thing? I heard some.
I won't contribute to
I heard
it,
some
but
stuff.
yeah. What did you hear?
He didn't do too well, is what I was hearing.
And
He's
now for
having
the
some
games
problems.
media gossip out.
I'll be honest. And this, I do not mean this as an insult to Jeff Keighley. He was there at the event. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but my interaction with him was basically non-existent. From my perspective as somebody who was in there playing for 2 days, I saw Jeff show up for like 1 hour and he didn't play with us. That's my experience with Jeff.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
I think he was only there one of the days for like maybe an hour or two, and that I didn't even see him playing. But it's probably best he didn't play with us, because you don't let your boy play out here with gladiators, all right?
Jeff got tibbed right away. Time says, did he do better than Elon on Path of Exile 2? Which, by the way, if you haven't seen that, is the funniest
Hilarious
thing you might
video,
have ever
yeah.
seen. Yes, comical. The guy who claimed he was the best Path of Exile 2 player in the world and found out later he was paying people to do that for him, played it on live stream and got killed in the tutorial. So it's pretty much standard for a guy like that. Yes. But anyway, good times. Last of Us Season 2 tonight, boys. Hogue, how pumped
Still
are
haven't seen one episode of the first season.
How pumped am I?
Yeah, come on.
What's the inverse of pumped? I am negative pumped.
Deflated.
Deflated. Tibbed.
I of course have my issues with The Last of Us Part 2. I've talked about that in this space before.
Really? What are they?
Yes.
I have an hour and a half long video on my channel if you want to check it out.
Tell us here.
No. Go check out my channel.
We have talked about that extensively here.
We have.
So.
Weird. I don't remember it. Why don't you tell us now?
But suffice it to say,
I'm muting him.
I don't love the HBO project as it stands, because it's just mostly copying the same beats as what was already a cinematic game. So I don't have a lot of high hopes for this one. I don't, in at least the press coverage so far, the publicity materials and the things that have been shown of on-set footage, I don't really believe the actress that's playing Ellie as Ellie 2.0 here for Last of Us Part 2. She has to be a dangerous type character, and I don't see that right this second. But I am at least allowing for the benefit of the doubt that things look different in motion in television or movie form than they do in press materials. So I'm hopeful that it works out. I have concerns. I'm unlikely to watch it tonight, certainly. But I don't hate The Last of Us. I'm not a big Pedro Pascal fan. I don't think he's a great Joel. But I am hopeful that video games continue to get recognition in places like HBO and have serious people attempting to make serious things out of them. Do I think this is the best project for that? No. But
yeah,
I still hope that it proves to be popular.
Yeah, my wife, we watched the first season. Obviously, my wife doesn't know anything about the game, really. Knows I'm a huge fan. I've got Last of Us stuff everywhere. But I always told her about Last of Us 2 ruining the franchise for me, basically. So she's like, we're going to watch this? I was like, yeah, we can watch it. I was like, we'll see how it goes. I'm not excited about watching it, but I'll watch it.
Are they really going to do it? You think
Yeah, I mean, well, they're breaking this into 2 seasons, right? So
at least
season 2, yeah, it's not game 2. So I don't know where they're going to draw that line, but we'll see.
My bet is still Golf Club. My bet is Golf Club on penultimate or last episode.
Why are you talking about BioShock, dude? We're talking about Last of Us. Anyway,
Andrew Ryan, yeah.
Also a golf club. Famous golf clubs in gaming.
A slave obeys. A man chooses.
Well, boys,
I will say.
Go.
So
go.
Just on Last of Us, I've still not watched the show. TV shows are for people who can't play video games. That's all I gotta say.
Hoke has sent us a link. Oh, that's weird. So I know what you mean by a sling bag, but I haven't seen a triangle one like that. That's odd.
That's what I see most often. I don't know what to tell
honestly,
you.
it kind of looks like a purse. I'll be honest with you. I would not wear that. It's a little feminine. A little feminine for my tastes.
Anyway, it has been a show, chat. You've been amazing. We're back to a 3-hour show, boys. They got us to do it, but it was a big topic this week. Travis, again, thank you for all the insight and
Sorry
commentary.
for talking so much. I have a lot to say about this game.
No, I actually have more questions.
It.
We'll talk more offline, but I'm really excited for it now.
We should play the alpha together.
You were able to convince me to never spend a moment playing this game, so I appreciate that.
I think that's smart. I think that's good.
But that's good.
Ains, we should hook up on the alpha.
Assuming I get into the alpha, yes, I would.
I'll get you in.
Play it.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
I got you. Buddy.
Yeah, I know Eric. There's a couple. Joe, Eric. There's a couple of people who I know will be ready to play this game. So
I got to tell you, I may have watched too much White Lotus because hookup in the alpha rang wrong to me.
I haven't watched that show, so I don't know.
I've not seen that show, but my mind is going some pretty dirty places. And
yes,
you're right.
Mike White clearly has thoughts about human sexuality that were triggered by you saying hookup in the alpha.
THOTS. Thoughts?
Thoughts.
Thoughts on the out. Thoughts.
All right, it's time for us to end this show. So
this is the after hours, post 3 hour mark, Season Gaming.
This is where we all get tired and start getting stupid. So anyway, chat, you've been awesome. Audio listeners who check us out, thank you as always. Really appreciate all the nice feedback and continued commentary. On the SG side, very quick this week, just you can check out the stuff that's up. We do have the Promise Mascot Agency review up. We will have that review up of Look Outside, the little horror game I mentioned as well. Check those out. We would really appreciate it. Hogue, I'll hand to you first this week.
Sure. Well, I'm a little surprised that you reviewed Promise Mascot Agency and not Blueprints, so I appreciate you making that clearer for me. I am on a couple of videos over at Last Stand. You can watch me and some of the Season Gaming boys talk about video games on Summon Sign that I think is public now, but it was released on Tuesday, maybe, of this past week. You can check that out. I also am on the newest Constellation episode where they talk about anything they like, and I can tell you here that my topic is about storytelling and the best mediums in which to tell a story. So you can check out that conversation. I believe that'll go live tomorrow over again on Last Stand Media. I don't believe I have done any videos for my personal channel this last week because, again, I've been very, very busy with firm and life stuff. So I do apologize for that again. I feel like I give that apology every week. But if you want to come support the channel, even though we don't have that new content over there, please do. Check it out. Hit buttons. Say you like things. Say you dislike things. Comment on my personal appearance. Tell me how much you hate me. YouTube loves everything you have to say, regardless of whether it's kind or not.
This is very true. And like I said, I'm going to try to do a better job of highlighting comments, feedback, things post-show as well. So hit us up with comments on the shows, and we'll be sure to share some of those. So appreciate that. Travis, obviously you had a busy week. You kind of talked about a lot of what you were doing, but anything else you want to call out before we head out?
Yeah, my Schedule 1 review is going to be live this week, and then I have another review. I just don't think I'm allowed to talk about it at all, but I have something that's really cool that I'm going to talk about probably next week or the week after. I think this week, yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. We'll talk about it next week then. Sweet.
Cool.
Awesome. Chat, thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the support. Hope you have a great week in gaming. Continue to play all the amazing games out there, and we will see you next Sunday. Till then.
Peace.